Maurice, want to go to the next slide? Go ahead, Freddie.
Okay, good morning. In
Good morning.
compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice that this meeting has been publicly posted. Board and commission all of the city conducts its meetings according to Robert's order. The meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from commissions under the to a conduct of this meeting should be stated during the vote should be prior to, in order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard. We ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand symbol. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Calling users, press 6 to unmute. All meeting activity is being recorded. Sorry.
That's *6 to unmute. Sorry to interrupt, Fred.
No, it's okay. *6 to unmute for all calling users. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. We have also provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Mr. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Michael, want to call the roll, please?
Bowen.
Present.
Downing.
Present.
Fluker. Furry.
Present.
Paul.
Present.
Slife.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Great. The first matter is a special presentation in public art. It's a ceramic tile mural. Tara, you want to introduce this one?
Good morning, Commission. This is Tara Petras, Public Art Coordinator for the City of Cleveland, working in city planning. This first project, the Celebramos mural at Roberto Clemente Park, went to Near West Design Review on Wednesday, April 14th. Unfortunately, by the time they got to this item on the agenda, there was no longer a quorum, so a motion wasn't made, but there were some recommendations to add a few things to the presentation that the applicant, Susan Underwood from Metro West Development Corporation, did make some presentation, and she wanted to go ahead and present to you all today. I think it's a very, I support the project. I think it's very important in a community with a largely Latinx community to be represented in the public art. Also, the artist, Angela Pozo, is a very talented ceramic mural artist, and she has a footprint in several neighborhoods throughout the city, and I'm glad to see her now being able to touch this neighborhood as well and represent not only her own Latinx community, but the diversity of the full neighborhood as well. So with that said, I am going to turn this over to Susan Underwood from Metro West to go through her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Hi, I'm Susie from Metro West. I'm the Arts and Special Projects Coordinator. And just a quick disclaimer, I just, Near West did say that they wanted a sketch with some more details. Angelica is just a little bit hesitant to give too many details before approval because the nature of her work, it's a lot of work. So we will be presenting again on the 28th for the Near West Design Review. And I'm hoping that we can get final review from them rather than having to then come back to the commission. So just just an FYI, that's kind of where I'm coming from. So I thought it was still worth coming to this one today. Thank you for having me. And I'll just run through this as quickly as possible so that you can start with any questions you have. So this was through a CAC grant with matching funds from Land Studio. So those are the partners, funding partners in this project. And as Tara said, Angelica Pozo is of Puerto Rican Cuban heritage. She lives very close to the neighborhood, just right over the border in Tremont. So she has, oh, sorry, did somebody? Okay, and so with this being Roberto Clemente Park, it seemed like a nice fit. We chose the location through a series of mural, art surveys I had done last year. And then a lot of the content in the mural was also decided through engagement, COVID safe engagement, so mostly virtual and surveys that we've done last year and this year. So here's just a good example of some examples of her work in Cleveland. Most people are familiar with her Wade Oval mosaic mural. The plan for this mural will not be mosaic, but it will be ceramic tiles. So you can progress the slides. Roberto Clemente Park, it's one of the only kind of nice little parks in this neighborhood, and it doesn't have any public art. So it just, it popped up in a lot of people's minds as somewhere where the neighborhood is very engaged. There's baseball games, near us rec, families, the Puerto Rican parade meets up there. There's celebrations, and just, anybody in the neighborhood who wants to have a nice picnic, it's a great spot. So it's really a project for the neighborhood, from the neighborhood. So the next slide, you can progress. This is the proposed mural location. There's a small little snack building. Just to the right of that is where the baseball fields are. Those are getting undergoing renovations right now, which is great. So the park's getting some updates. To the left of that is the parking lot. So you drive in, you see this building immediately. It's right by the street. You can see it when you drive by, and it also faces the rest of the park. So it's really the perfect location to see it from almost any direction that you would be in the park or around the park. You can progress the slide. So the theme is celebration. And this kind of, the idea is that we wanted to really celebrate all the different cultural heritage of the neighborhood. And through the theme of celebration, how do different people celebrate? How do different cultures celebrate? And we got a lot of answers from the neighborhood for that. And so the content for the middle of the mural is from the answers we got from community members, from residents around the different cultural celebrations. And this is kind of just a little list of some of the community engagement, meeting with the block club, surveys, and then the border of the mural will incorporate actual drawings from the community that she's going to be baking onto the tiles, and then she'll be formatting her own designs around these little drawings of family crests. So the family crests are just another way to sort of get to the cultural diversity through their creative explorations of their own surnames. So you can progress the slide. And so the mural is actually called Our Neighborhood Celebrates, Nuestro Barrio Celebra. That's Angelica's name for it. And I think Celebramos will probably what we call the celebration that we're hoping to have in June if we can get a permit, but sometime this summer for the community. The scale is 6 by 12 glazed porcelain tiles. I think they're all going to be 12 by 12 tiles, but the ones inside might be smaller, but the outside ones are 12 by 12. That then she'll be formatting different designs onto. It will reflect the strong presence of the Puerto Rican residents in that area, which is, a really strong part of the population, but also, showing all the different ways everybody celebrates from all the different backgrounds. And then there will be, and then all the workshops we've been doing have been both available in English and Spanish in all the surveys. And then the label that we put up next to it will also be available in English and Spanish. see. And then she starts to kind of talk about her design. She kind of laid out like a calendar dial, which you can kind of see when we go to the image of the sketch. You can progress the slide. And she's kind of thinking about the different seasons in relation to the holidays as she's laying out the design through the thinking about those different ways that people celebrate these different seasonal holidays. And then you can, as she says, it's a very rough sketch, but we're going to give some more details and images and lettering for the next design review she's working on here. But they asked at least like a portion of it could be more detailed. So you can progress the slide. This is her rough sketch. So as you can see, the border there, which I'll show you in the next slide, will be the family crests formatted into it. And then this interior part, it's still all ceramic tile, but she will be creating this interior portion. And, you know, it's got some, plays homage to the baseball games, the American flag there, different holidays. It was requested to add Kwanzaa into this mix, so she's going to work that into the design. And she's got the parranda there, which is something that was brought up, Puerto Rican kind of parade of the neighborhood during the holidays that was brought up a lot in the surveys in quinceañeras. And so these are all just pieces that were highlighted in the surveys from the community. She's working into a really colorful and celebratory design. And you can progress it to the next one to see the crests. So we've been working with the community on these virtual workshops and now a couple in-person socially distant workshops now that she's vaccinated. So, you know, it's been a challenge, but really loving the results and the feedback from the community. And these will be, they're making these on 8x8 drawings, but she's going to be digitizing and then shrinking them and incorporating them into the design. So they'll probably be more like 5x5 incorporated into larger tiles on the border. And then she'll be spacing other designs, you know, in between the tiles that have the family crests. And this is just, you know, residents researching their surname, finding if there is an existing family crest, you know, what does that look like? And then really looking at their own history of their family and really creating a whole new design based on that research and family identity. And so you can progress the slide. And this is approximately how it would fit onto the wall. There's a small bench there, so it would sit above the bench, so it wouldn't be blocking it. And the metal label would go to the left of it since there's that little control box thing there. And it does take up most of the wall. And there is a small light on there, although I know they're doing some upgrades to the lighting in the park sometime soon. So I wanted to talk to the councilman to see if we could maybe include something to make sure if it could time on during the evening. So I'd like to work on that at some point, but it doesn't have to be done by the time we install the mural. So 6x12. And then you can progress the slide. And this is just a reference. I worked on this mural of Gina de Jesus by Gisela McDaniels. West Camp made a little plaque here that looks really nice and just gives a little bit of a description of the project, the artist, just a little background for anybody that walks up. The mural will be very, close. You can walk right up to it and you'll be able to read the label and look at a lot of the details. So there'll be a lot of really fun details for the community to just stare at and talk about while they look at it. And so, and this will be just to the left of it where there's not a control box. And you can progress the slide. I came up with just a draft for you all for this. This hasn't been edited yet or anything. So I will be, passing this around to different interested parties to get the text right. But just to give you an idea, it's got the name, artist name, title, and then just a little background around the content of the mural, letting them know the interior was inspired by different celebratory traditions, and the border is featuring family crests designed by members of the community. and families really are working together on this. So there's really all ages that you can see, maybe not babies, but for the most part, it's a wide range of ages you'll be able to see contributing to that portion of the mural. And then you can progress, and I think there's just one more. And just maintenance plan, you know, we will make sure to be responsible for it. She can be compensated for repairs. Angelica does have a professional tile setter that she's worked with for years. So not really worried about, it's going to be very sturdy outdoor, you know, intended tile work. So it should be easy to clean and very sturdy, but, you know, we will have some remaining funds set aside for maintenance if needed by her or the tile setter. And I think that is the end of my, oh, and Tara said she has one more very important thing she forgot to add. So I'll just throw it back out to you all for any questions or comments.
Thanks,
Tara, do
Susie.
you want to add something?
Yes, I forgot to mention that Susie and the artists and their partners have been working with the Department of Public Works to incorporate the mural on a City of Cleveland property and working with them on the licensing agreements. So they have gotten permission to install this in the park.
Thank you. Commission members?
This is Lillian. I'll move approval. I don't think you need to come back here. I think if you're going back to local, I think it's a great project. And I know I've known Angelica since I was at Cleveland Public Art. I love her. So congratulations, fantastic. But if the commission agrees, I think we could approve this. And as long as there are no issues, but even if there are, you can come back to staff for approval.
I'll second that. Downing.
Motion second, further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, Michael?
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Slife. Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck. Tara, you want to go over the Maya sculpture?
Yes, this next presentation is a sculpture called Maya by local artist David Byro. He's contacted the city. We started this process about 2.5 years ago or so, where he was looking to just bring more awareness to activating different green spaces around the city with public art. And this did go through the Downtown Flats Design Review yesterday, where it did receive a unanimous approval with the following conditions. One, that the city reviews and improves the structural loads, and as well as approving the head height clearance measures, which David will get into later. And the approval was for 2 different locations that the artist is proposing as potential sites for this particular structure. I support the project. I like the visibility of the structure. I like that it's public art that you can actually sort of interact with versus just look at. So I think he's incorporated some things that really will make it stand out and highlight. It is for a temporary installation of 30 days. And the 2 proposed sites are the green space triangle at Ontario and Carnegie across from Progressive Field. And the other proposed location is at Kirtland Park. So with that said, I am going to go ahead and turn this over to David for his presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning and letting me present. I'm going to try to get through this information presentation pretty quick. So once again, the objective, I look at unoccupied public property that's in highly visible corridors, and to activate that with temporary public art, large scale art, typically that you can enter into or interact with. That'll help raise awareness first with large scale public art. Second, community engagement. The community gets to observe, interact, and see this stuff for the first time in a free and public space with low barrier of entry. And then it hopefully causes a civic and community discussion within artists, organizations, and with the city and the county itself about how these spaces could be activated more permanently with public artwork by first activating it with temporary artwork. The temporary activation prevents or takes off the need to put in additional foundational work, electrical work that would be needed with needed with the space. I put in some additional costs there. Insurance, Crimson Business Insurance insures large-scale art across the nation. They can provide me with a $2 million liability protection plan. We've incorporated for architectural prints, engineering review. Maya already went through a QCS inspection. Engineering firm already looked it over, did a preliminary engineering report on it. If you could advance to the next slide. Next slide, please. And this is all my installations. Next slide. Oh, there's an overhead shot of Carnegie, Ontario. The green space where it's a really beautiful green space. And in the beginning of the process, we found that the state of Ohio owned that. And discussions with the state told us that no, the city owns that. So we had to, that was part of the changeover going from when they did the Main Avenue Bridge there. I guess the city didn't know that they own that piece of property. So we were able to get that piece of property back. And it's really beautiful. It's an entry and exit point for everyone coming into Cleveland. And it's a great location for public art, hopefully for a permanent public piece in the future. So activating it, to me, activating this temporarily on a 30-day basis will cause hopefully good discussion. Microphone.
Yeah, please mute your microphone if you're not speaking.
Sorry. So hopefully there's, once again, is how can this piece of property be utilized, on a longer term piece of public art, and looking at it first from a temporary perspective, and what discussions that causes not only within the city and the county, but within the art community and community in general at large. Next slide, please. Next slide. There's what Maya would look like, a little black box. That hill is sloped on either side. There's minimal flat space on the top of that hill. It's actually not really flat or expansive flat area. So, but there's enough room to actually have a pretty decent size installation, or the area would have to be reworked. The lighting, there's going to be lighting that encircles Maya, but it's pointed inward towards the installation itself. We're going to use solar, basic exterior solar power lighting with a battery backup. There's going to be about 12 of them that surround Maya that will illuminate it at night. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so there's Maya. That's a SolidWorks 3D blueprint. That's actually to scale. That's a 1:10 to scale. Maya's 20 feet long. It's about 10 feet wide, and it's about 8 feet high. The entrance to Maya itself is 67 inches. In the tunnels, there's 2 tunnels there on either side. That's each tunnel's at about 70 inches. And then the main room in the center that rises up to 89 inches. So if you're a bit taller than 67 inches, you are going to have to duck to get into Maya, and that's done on purpose. It's to create an experience of entering into a structure. And when you enter into the structure, you feel the presence of this spatial change. You enter in, the space changes, you're aware that the space changes, and now you feel like you're inside of something. And, the whole psychology is hopefully to change. And then when you get to the center of the structure, if you're tall like me, it's like 6'1", 6'2", you can finally stand up and actually put your arms above your head. You could stand there with your friends and you can have a discussion, or you could lay down. when light comes through, whether it's natural sunlight or whether it's illuminated light at night, it's going to cast the patterns, the laser cut patterns all around into the structure itself, and it creates a very, very, really cool effect. This installation is made from 70 thousandths steel sheet, and then we're using 1-inch steel tubing, 1/8 inch wall thickness, and then we're using 1/2 inch wood paneling on the entrance and the exits. The frames are welded and then bolted. There's over 420 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch fasteners that bolt this installation together. There's gusset plates that hold the frame together. Safety is a key cause here. Before we put this out on public display, we would go in with additional steel members to bring additional strength and to bring the safety factor up. More. It's painted with DuPont Centauri automotive finish. Took about 3 gallons of paint, of actual car paint to actually paint it. The installation weighs about 2,500 to 3,000 pounds. It will be temporarily mounted into the ground with stakes. Don't have a fear of it blowing away. Next slide, please. There's a top-down view with some measurements in inches. The theme of this installation is it's a conglomeration, or it's a collision between Art Deco and industrial design with a bit of a Mayan religious feel to it, a bit of a temple-like feel to it. And that's probably most of that is, Cleveland's very industrial in nature. We have a lot of Art Deco, Roaring 20s design in and around Cleveland. And it's the collision between the two. And these technically, if we could go to the previous slide real quick, the designs are, we could go to the next slide. We can go to the key shot rendering, please. What you see here, so here it is, actually up on the hill at Carnegie, Ontario. This is KeyShot. It's a hyper-realistic rendering program. It's what I use for all my design work. It's really, really handy to be able to visualize what an installation would look like at places around the city or where I'd like to place them. So what you're looking at the design is, those are typically trees. They're supposed to represent trees, and the trees represent birth and death, growth, and then the leaves fall off if you actually zoom in there, and they fall down to the earth where they would get recycled and soaked into the planet. And so that was the main design element, was Art Deco industrial trees. Next slide, please. And then that's what it would look like. That's what it would look like from the front if you're standing in the front of it. Actually, the entrances and exits actually have a decorative painting pattern on it that my friend did. It's not rendered here in KeyShot. She did it post design. And you could see what it will look like sitting up on the hill. And this is at the location of Carnegie in Ontario, obviously. So it's next slide. Here's Kirtland Goodrich Park. There's a nice amphitheater, and it's got a really nice pad. I've been passing by Kirtland my entire life. My family's been in business for 100 years here in Cleveland. We're located here on the close west side in Ohio City. So I've been driving the Shoreway in my entire life, passing Kirtland Park. I just went there recently, a couple years ago, for the first time. And I was going there during the pandemic to work out. And I discovered that they have this really cool, awesome pad there. It's a really nice concrete pad. It's really beautiful. Kirtland Park could serve as a great location for a gallery of large-scale public art, in my opinion. But this pad here, it's really nice and expansive. There's actually an electrical box hookup next to it. The electrical's missing. The city must have took it out at some point. Can we go to the next slide, please? There's what Maya would look like placed on the pad relative. Well, let's get to some KeyShot. Next slide. Oh, here's an interior frame rendering. This is what, if you're wondering what the interior frame looks like, there's the interior frame. It's in 5 different pieces. two side pieces on each side that bolt together. The gusset plates that you see there, those are 1/4 inch steel gusset plates held in with 3/8 inch stainless steel hardware, and then the roof piece, and that's all welded together. That roof members is all welded. Then it's held by the gusset plates, and the roof piece is also driving the force down into those side pieces as well too. We would come in with additional steel members, cross bracing, essentially it would go across the length of those side pieces diagonally to bring up greater strength. Once again, 1 inch steel tubing there, 1/8 inch wall thickness. Next slide, please. Questions? There's what Maya would look like at Kirtland Park, and what it would look like sitting on the pad. You know, it's people. A lot of people pass by Kirtland Park on the freeway, so people are going to get a glimpse of it visually. I believe that people do stop and will check out public art when they see something new, whether it's sitting at the corner of Carnegie, Ontario, or whether it's sitting at a public park or at an intersection somewhere around Cleveland. That people will stop. It was talked about yesterday in design review. What I've seen with my public art installations is that people do stop to inquire what the heck is going on, what is this, what's it all about, what does it entail, you know. And it's typically you don't see stuff like this in Cleveland, in my opinion. So it's with great gratitude to be able to bring a project like this and be able to put it on display on public property. Due to the nature, I mean, that Maya can be orientated into a different direction on the pad. Probably can't be situated the other way, but it can be put at an angle. And then there would, once again, would be solar lights that would be around the installation pointing in. Next slide, please. I think we're coming to the end of the installation. And then there's a different perspective. The side mounted perspective of what it would look like sitting on the pad. We could mount it to the concrete pad with some concrete fasteners if the city would let us. And then I have pool noodles. So I have over 700 pool noodles in my possession from a different art installation. So I plan on putting pool noodles along the inner part of the roof frame on the entrance and exits. So as you enter the structure, you'll be confronted with pool noodles covering the steel portion of the frame. In case you forget that you're in a structure and you lift your head up, your head won't hit steel. It's going to hit some foam first. And I think that's it. Is there another slide there? Oh, this is actually what the corner of Carnegie and Ontario looks like at night. It's pretty dark there on that hill. You know, I look at it, I sit there at the intersection, and just stare there, and it just, you know, would look really, really awesome, you know, if public art is on that hill, and hopefully someday permanently, you know, whether, you know, Land Studio or different art collective or different artist. You know, but that location there, you know, in my opinion, from an art point of view, right, it's just dynamite, real dynamite location.
Thank you, David.
Commissioner,
Commission members?
I just have a quick question. This is temporary, correct? And how long will it be up at either location? What's the length of duration?
30 days, unless
30 days.
would like it, unless the city or people would like it longer.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, to the applicant, this is August. The only concern I have is those cutouts and some of the spacing between some of the pieces and parts. Hopefully they're smaller enough so that it doesn't allow for kids to get their head stuck or fingers caught, things like that. So I just, you know, if someone's walking through, if the applicant could address that, thank you.
I don't think I mean, there is a certain risk that if you know, there's always going to be a certain risk that when you're around metal, you know, and you're unsupervised, you know, there's always going to be a risk of, there's always going to be a safety risk, you know.
I know, but there's certain standards. I mean, if it's less than 4 inches, then a kid can't get their head stuck in it. There's certain criteria one can follow. So I don't know if you have kids, but I've seen kids, even supervised, tend to find things to get their limbs and heads caught in. So I just wanted to point that out.
I don't think there's nothing that kids can stick their head through or their hands through. Yes, they can probably stick through their hands through the design itself, through the laser cutouts on the design. It can provide the dimensions of that. Once again, we're willing to meet whatever requirements that the city sets forth on this.
I wanted to add a couple of things I forgot to mention also with regard to this particular display. We have been back and forth about several different locations. I think there's been a total of 4 that we've explored during the time that we've been in communication and landed on the possibility of these 2. We do still have to get the administration's approval from Public Works to proceed. And there's been quite a bit of significant financial investment into this particular project, as well as David did agree to provide the city with his engineering report for the structural load.
Commission members, what's your pleasure?
I'd move for a approval for 30 days. I think anything longer than 30 days, I would want there to be some deeper level of engagement, especially with the division of police, since I think that people could, kind of people could end up kind of taking shelter in these if they were permanent, and I'd want their opinion on a public safety standpoint. But 30 days should be fine in my opinion.
I'll second that. Downing.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I do believe that August's point was really important. So I think we ought to add that to the motion because I don't know what approval process for something that's temporary, even though it's going through the process, and it is intended for people to interact with it. So I do think his point is really important, which is that it needs to meet the minimum standard requirements for safety for children, and we should state that. I think it's.
I'll amend the motion to include that.
Okay.
I'll second
Okay,
it with
thank
the
you.
amendment.
Any more discussion? So this is approval with stated amendment. Michael, call the roll, please.
Owen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Zoning map amendment? I don't have that in my paper. What's the next slide? Nothing scheduled today. There you go. Lot consolidation, lot split. This one 00702 West 44th Street. This was tabled. Are we going to take action on this? Michael?
Yes, yes.
Yes, it's my
Yes.
understanding that they have a better presentation than the last time, and I think that was the reason it was tabled. There just wasn't enough information.
Okay. Can I have a motion to remove from the table?
I move to remove it from the table. Downing.
Second, Fluker.
Motion and second. Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Okay, Maurice, who's here to speak to this one?
Really?
Looks like we have Michael David from BR Kinez.
Go ahead, Michael.
Really?
Could we ask everybody to mute if they're not speaking, please?
Hello, Michael? Anyone else from Kinez?
I have Ben Trimble with his hand raised.
Go ahead, Ben.
Hi, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Ben Trimble, I'm Chief Real Estate Officer for Ohio City Incorporated. I am also Acting Director of the Near West Community Land Trust. The Land Trust is actually a combined effort of Tremont and Ohio City to provide, to both preserve and to build new affordable housing in the Ohio City and Tremont neighborhoods. We were founded last year. These are the first of a number of new construction infill homes that we are actually planning with the City of Cleveland Land Bank, our council persons in our respective wards. This is actually Councilman McCormick. And we also enjoy some gap funding we'll be seeking from the City of Cleveland. These are our first couple of units. We have two houses. We have two houses already permitted, one rehab and one new construction, both in the Ohio City neighborhood. We have been working with the Land Bank as well as a Housing Design Review Committee to get these houses to market. These have already been approved by the city's Housing Design Review Committee. At our last presentation, there was some expression from the committee that we were creating a lot split that would create hardships. Just to give a little more background on how we got to this point, these are prototypes that were designed to fit on sort of an average Ohio City lot. So they were chosen both for their abilities to fit on the size of the lots that we have in Ohio City and Tremont, as well as give sort of a range of different architectural expressions so that they're not all the same houses. So we use a type here that we've designed for larger houses on a much larger lot than we have normally, which is what has kind of brought us to this problem with the 3-foot setback between the two houses that we're providing. I'm going to hand it over to our architect, Graydon Pletznick. We did go back after the questions that this commission had and take a lot of representative images of housing surrounding this neighborhood. Most of our Ohio City neighborhood is extremely dense, and so I think what these photos will show you that not only most of our neighborhood has pretty tight setbacks between houses, but especially in this portion of our neighborhood, this kind of setback from between the houses is very prevalent. So I'll hand it over to Graydon Pletznick, who's our architect. He can walk you through those images.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members, and staff. This is Graydon Pletznick. I'm an architect with Cleveland Drawn. As Ben was saying, we've been working with OCI and Tremont West for over a year on designing prototype housing that fits the smaller lot. This actual prototype is designed to fit to a 24-foot lot. And the lot split that we're presenting to you creates 22.5-foot lots. The reason with the 45-foot original lot, using some of the ORC mechanisms for setbacks and shared use of fire separation, we were able to create 3 feet in between all of the houses, 2 neighboring houses. And to explain that a little bit more, beyond the title page, if you advance the next slide, please. We show that in relative to the neighboring houses to the north and the south. The north and south house to our proposed lots are a foot and less than a foot away from the property line, which is pretty typical of this neighborhood and this block area. If you wouldn't mind advancing the next slide, please. These are context photos showing the great mix of old and new infill houses on the street. we have mostly gable front, 1.5-story and 2-story houses, similar to what we're proposing, in relative closeness to one another. Where there isn't a house, there was some previous lot split or a former house that has been demoed and is awaiting new construction. But the tightness, the closeness to the street are all prevalent on not only West 44th, but Orchard and the street behind us. If you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide, please. Just some context. The top left image is a figure ground showing all of the instances just within where we're proposing our small market rate housing in red. The red circles in between houses are all showing 3 feet or less distance between houses. We have 2 across the street, one immediately behind us, and 2 down the block. So this is thing that you see on this block and meets with the density and the closeness that's already there. The bottom right picture shows how we got to this issue. There was a previous lot split of 2 lots into an odd-shaped house lot immediately south of us, and the resulting 45 feet that we had to deal with to make 2 houses. We looked at one larger house here very briefly, but it seemed to be out of context with the neighborhood, and the 2 smaller houses will meet the price point and meet the needs of the neighborhood in a better fashion. If you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide, please. This is actually our lot. The top row of photographs shows it from West 44th, advancing it on the sidewalk from directly across in the car. The middle row of images shows it from the rear alley side, which would be the garage access to it. And the bottom row shows the closeness of the houses that are immediately adjacent to us. Again, it reflected in the civil survey. And if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide, please. These are the specific examples of the closeness within the neighborhood. These are all the instances that were called out on that figure ground plan of distances that are 3 feet or less within the neighborhood. And it does fall within the range between just the 2 streets of Orchard and West 44th. But this is not something that would create an undue hardship or a burden on the neighborhood. And we're able through both the code and fire separation and fire resistance rated walls and overhangs to make this adhere to all the building codes. The next 2 slides are just a quick from the protracted CD set, showing that we are really making small, affordable homes appropriate to the neighborhood. We're really trying to get new housing into this neighborhood.
You're fading in and out. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm actually in the car on a road trip. So just to show that these are affordable houses that we're really trying to make market rate at a price point that most people can't afford. So 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, but with good open spaces that have really been pushed to the 17-foot limit to maintain marketability, with some projections to 18 feet. And it's those projections of the stair to create the space upstairs that limits us down to the 3 feet. Otherwise, we would be 5 feet, which we are at the street and the rear of the property. And the last slide that you see is the front elevation that really shows the character of the new construction. For this, we've done several designs that we've worked through with the city and review committees, but this one seemed to fit the best with the context of the neighborhood. So that is what we would like to present to the commission, and I will turn it back to Ben for any further comments or any questions. Thank you.
Commission members?
I just want to say I appreciate you guys' thoroughness. This helps define what you're trying to achieve. I do have a question. You're here for a lot split. I get it. Once that's done, you have to go then ask for permission for variances. So I need to understand what we're approving and what it means as you guys move forward. Or what? Thanks.
Go ahead, Ben.
So yes, I mean, so we have already had this design approved by the Housing Design Review Committee internally at the city. Not only then that's because it's a land bank lot that's being provided to us, but also to approve the design. So after this, we would proceed to a variance. Yes, I don't believe that the under 4 units proceed to the commission, but maybe one of the planners could correct me. So I believe after this, we would proceed to variance and then to building review.
It would go to BZA, correct?
Thank you. I just have a
That's correct.
procedural question, and again, maybe this is food for thought. So you've gone through design, you're asking for a lot split, then you proceed for variances based upon setbacks, etc. What if they're not approved and they ask you to change your design? Seems like the working drawings are done. I'm just trying to understand, how we got this far, and now you're asking. Hopefully, you're crossing your fingers. That's.
Ben,
Yeah, I'm. Oops, I'm sorry.
Ben, you're on mute.
Sorry, Mr. Fluker, could you repeat the question? I'm not absolutely sure what you're asking for.
All right.
I'm following procedure that's from the city.
I'll be honest. You're asking me. I think it's asked backwards, because you've already done all the CDs. You got the designs approved. You're asking for a lot split. Now you're going to ask for permission to build this based on some variances that you haven't secured. So I'm trying to figure out how we got here. That's all. It's a question.
Well, maybe I could answer that. These are prototype designs that have been worked out for most typical lots, going down to 24 foot in width. So these, for the most part, these designs that have been approved and worked through work on most every site that we've encountered and are proposing in the Cleveland area. It's just that this particular site is a little different and requires some adjustments to it. It's not that we've gone down this path and looking for forgiveness. It's that we have the designs and would like to use them on this lot because it's the most efficient and works best for the market rate in the city, in area.
One other question. Where else are these built? If this is the prototype, where else have you built this? I think that was the question last time.
Mr. Chairman, also we have Matt Moss with his hand raised. He might be able to address more of Mr. Fluker's questions.
So Ben, where else was this?
We've not built these. These were the first lots that came through, but these have been designed for a number of other lots throughout our neighborhood.
Right.
And I would also just say, just to go back to the representative images that we're talking about, that I mean, we could have resolved this, I guess, by putting the two houses together. There are a lot of other resolutions we could have, but we felt that this solution actually represented sort of the built environment of our neighborhood a little bit better. The understand that we're asking for variances, but I guess we're so used to almost anything we do ask for this, we get looking for variances.
Yeah, I think a lot of the places around here, August, they need variances for, and unless they know that they're going to get the lot split, staff's not going to, or Freddie's not going to sign off on it until they get the variance anyhow. So they're not going to have a split lot without being able to move forward. But Adam, did you want to say a few things?
No, Matt.
Oh, Matt.
Moss.
All right,
Wrong
Matt. All right. Wrong area.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is Matt Moss. I'm a neighborhood planner assigned to Ohio City. I was really going to echo what Graydon said. These lots, the lot in question here, this is a prototype that Ohio City and their team has presented to both land bank staff and planning staff as a prototype they want to build on parcels like this. So there was a selection of parcels that, going back to 2018, we identified with the Development Corporation and the councilman as parcels that they would seek to build these homes on. This parcel in particular, I would, in my judgment, is atypically large for parcels in Ohio City of this type. It's wider than a lot of parcels that already exist, and I think has been documented by Graydon and Ben here today. So this is a home that would normally fit, I think, on a typical lot. And as Ben said, the zoning that is in place in this part of the city, in this part of the neighborhood, is really restrictive in terms of requiring minimum lot sizes and frontages that are not typical for lots and buildings in this area. So that it gives rise to very frequent variance requests. So the lot itself in the split request, I don't think is atypical for lots in the neighborhood. And as Ben said, the plans have been reviewed and we recommended approval with only one minor condition for this design.
Commission members?
This is Lillian. I move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck, Ben.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
The next is lot consolidation, lot split for permanent parcel number 004, 01, 038, 037, 066, and 067, 2041 and through 2035 West 20th Street, 2060 West 20th Street. Who's here for this?
Hi, this is Haley Novak from Horton Harbor. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members and staff. As you mentioned, this lot split would involve quite a few parcels. We have some existing site images here. The parcels are located along West 20th Place, which is accessed off of Smith Court and is just to the east of West 20th Street. The images here on the top row, those are views from West 20th Street, looking down Smith Court, and then the three larger images here at the bottom are of the site itself, which are off of 20th Place, the smaller alley. It's very narrow street. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. this image here takes a look at the different parcels involved. Again, we're on West 20th Place. And the main parcel in question is 2060 West 20th. Here, parcel number is 067. The house just to the north of that is existing and will be there, and we are not touching that parcel. The parcels that are highlighted or with a darker property line, those are all owned by the same developer. And the intention is to use 2060 to add a single family house. We would be taking portions of the parcels to the west and the triangular parcel to the south. If you go to the next slide, we'll have a better look at what that new lot would look like. So just over 50 feet wide and 65 feet in depth. Again, we're taking from the parcels around it. And this is similar to a lot split that was approved about a year and a half ago, I believe. Just to the north, you can see 2038 West 20th Place there. And there's a similar house not shown here to the north of that, which again was similarly went through a lot split to be able to consolidate for a single family house. If you go to the next slide, you'll get a better idea of what that site plan would look like. 20th here on 2060 West 20th Place, we are proposing a single family house. It would be set back quite a bit from the alley in order to have a larger setback and provide a driveway to an attached garage. If you guys have any questions, I guess I'll open up that for you now.
Commission members?
Is there an aerial view of this location? I'm trying to pull it up on Google Earth, but it's not working so good.
Doesn't look like we have one.
I can try to pull one up real quick if you need it.
No, don't worry. I've got it. I pull up on my other screen. I guess one of my questions is the triangular lot to the south, the 066. Who would retain? That's a non-buildable lot.
Right. So we have had some discussions with our civil engineer. He kind of assumed already that you likely would not want to see that kind of dangling off to the side. So I think the intention would be to probably consolidate that little portion with the larger parcel to the south, the one ending in 041.
So does the developer own that lot also?
Yes, he does.
All right. So
Is there a plan for that lot, 041, that we could see? I mean, I think the issue is that I agree. First of all, I can't understand this without a larger context. And I can't understand sort of West 20th Place, but I think it's important to know what's going to happen to 041.
That plan, I don't think they've fully worked it out yet. And I don't have that information right this second. If that's
Maybe-
something, yeah, I guess, what was that?
maybe what we can do is table this and you can come back with something that shows more of the context of the environment there. And then at least a massing plan, what it may look like in the lot next door. And then also the conversation about that triangular piece of land being consolidated to the other parcel. That should be done at the same time.
Yeah,
You can't just
I
have
agree.
There we go.
you can't have a little piece of land just floating out there.
And I'd add to that just by looking at this home seems very out of scale relative to the other buildings around. So I have some questions about that. If it's possible to know more about the home or to hear from the neighborhood planner about it. It seems very large.
So a motion to table.
I'll second Downing.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Let's make a date certain the next planning commission meeting. Is that okay? Unless the applicant can't get it back to us in
Yeah.
time.
I'm fine with that. Date certain.
Okay.
That's
Motion
fine with us
second,
as well.
further
Thank you.
discussion. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. It's tabled till the next meeting. Okay, mandatory referrals. This is ordinance number 215-2021. Lillian, will you take this? I work with Lama, so I'm just going to recuse myself from this one.
Okay, I got it.
Thank you.
Is someone going to present this from the city?
Yeah, this is Dan Kennedy from Economic Development.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, yeah, presenting the Addis View Apartments. There are some folks from the development team here as well, if there's any sort of more specific questions, but I'll just be doing a high overview of the development because we are presenting for the chain of title. So if you want, should be a presentation if someone there is controlling. Next slide, please. So first is an overview of the lots sort of in question. As you can see, there's sort of 3 big chunks, but it's actually going to be in a 4-phased process. So on the west side of East 90th is phase 1, phase 2. On the east side, the larger one in the north is phase 3, and then the closest to Chester is phase 4. This will be a mixed use along East 90th and Chester. The next slide is sort of rendering looking north of phase 1 of what these might look like. If you want to go to the next slide. So in phase 1, it'll be 131 multifamily residential units, 4-story development, 69 surface parking lots, some bike spaces, balcony features, and a courtyard for residents. The next slide sort of will show the rendering of that green space or courtyard for the residents. And then following the next one is an aerial overview, as well as what the facade would look like from East 90th. The top picture is showing phase 1 and phase 2 of what that'll look like. If you go to the next slide, we have our 2020 citywide plan. You could see that the majority of it is in a multifamily planned area. There's some mixed use. The light pink on the sort of bottom left is institutional. There is a church down there. So that's what that signifies. And the process is the last slide, and it's just, economic development is offering a 30-year non-school TIF. Per the Ohio Revised Code, we need to enter into a chain of title in order to adopt the TIF. And this project has been presented to design review in the past.
Okay. Thank you. Commission members, questions?
I move approval, Downing.
Second, Paul.
Motion and a second. Can you call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we are going to postpone this particular piece, Director Collier.
Yeah, that's 228-2021 is being postponed. So we'll move on to the next one. Ordinance number 230-2021. This is authorizing the Commissioner of Purchasing and Supply to city-owned properties not needed for public use, 5470 Lake Court to SCN Services LLC. Suzanne, are you doing this one?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Suzanne DeGennaro with the Office of Capital Projects, Division of Real Estate. I do have a presentation. There it is. Right. Okay, good. So this ordinance would authorize the Director of Public Utilities to transfer property shown in yellow there. This is on Lake Court, which is north of St. Clair, just west of East 55th Street. And the property would be transferred. This is surplus CPP property that would be transferred to SCN Services, shown in red there, to the west. SCN Services owns KD Air and Electric Tool. They are a power tool company that provides parts and services for power tools and equipment. It's a family-owned business. They've been there for many years, and they have been working with economic development to expand their property. And if you could advance to the next slide. This is a picture of their existing headquarters, and they just basically need more room for, they need room for expansion. And the property, if you go to the next slide, this is the property to the east of them. This is the CPP property. It's surplus property. It's about 1/3 of an acre, no longer needed for public use. And the sale of this property to SCN would put it back into productive reuse, take maintenance responsibility away from the city. So it's really sort of a win-win. And yeah, I guess that's, there is a sub formerly used by CPP on the property. And KD has agreed to take the property, subject to any environmental conditions and with the building on it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions, commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Paul.
Motion second, further discussion. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Take a look at the administrative approvals, and I'll take a motion when someone's ready.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion is second, further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, design review. Northeast
Mr. Chair?
Design Review. Yes.
I noticed there was one for an urban overlay on Chester. I believe I have to recuse myself from that one.
Commissioner Fluker,
Okay, so
those pieces have already been approved by the planning commission as unnumbered ordinances, the ones relating to zoning map amendments. So this is
Okay.
just perfunctory at this point.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Northeast Design Review. This is McPhillips Plumbing pole sign. Who's here to speak to this? I'm going to need to swear you in.
My name
Looks
is
like we have Tom Yankovic.
I'm here
with
on
the
the Sign Company.
Shannon Leonard.
Well, Shannon, I don't have to swear you and your staff, but Tom, if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Before you get going, I want Shannon, she wrote a lengthy letter, and this is in regards to the local retail and pedestrian retail overlay. So Shannon, can you go through that with us?
Yeah, so I have a couple slides. There's quite a few variances that this proposal requires. And so either we could do this one of two ways. Either applicant can go ahead and go and explain to you their project and their proposal, which would make more sense. And then I can go and walk you through the variances that Planning Commission is required to make a determination on. However you think would be best.
Let's see the presentation and then we'll go from there. And then you can go through the variances. How's that sound?
Okay, that's fine. Maurice, can you skip to their presentation?
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, we're here today to ask your approval for a 13-foot, 7-inch high by 16-foot, 2-foot-inch wide V-shaped pole sign. It'd be located at Waterloo Road on the east side of the property. The reason that we're here for this is because over the years, this McPhillips Plumbing has been there since 1907 within the city. And they had at one time real good roadside presence or street presence from I-90. But since then, you know, the interstate has grew and there's a noise barrier wall. And what the last year has taught I think everyone is that the market is shifting now to more of a residential demand. And the McPhillips group have determined that they're losing their exposure in this area. So what they're trying to do is to identify their business, and the way they're going to do this is with a pole sign to the passerbys or the motorists on I-90. The other thing is the advertising element. There's so much that the McPhillips group does, such as they're not just plumbing, but they do heating, air conditioning, electrical, that type of thing. So they wanted to utilize the technology to get this marketing over to the folks that are passing by every day that maybe aren't aware that McPhillips are in the area. The other thing too is that we've designed or developed this sign to be in line with the other signs in the city limits, namely the freeway interchange signs. We're at an 80-foot overall height. The square footage is under what is generally allowed for those. And we didn't want it to be, you know, the biggest, highest thing in the city. What we're trying to do is just keep it in line. The other thing that's very noticeable, especially in this slide, is, you know, the existing roadway lights. They're at about the same height of the sign. So we're in line with all the other projections or freestanding structures in that area. If you go to the next slide, the sign is also, it'll be, you know, engineered to withstand any of the wind elements and that type of thing. It's also be structured in such a way to be elevated or turned, if you will, to provide good illumination towards or visibility towards the motorists and less illumination to the residents behind it. So that is also why we have
You're not a WebEx meeting expert, but okay, I have this meeting on.
Please, excuse me, please mute your microphone.
So we also, so that V-shaped design actually serves as a, you know, a deterrent from any light coming back to the residential area. If you could go to the next slide, please. We're positioning that sign on the east side of the property. That is about the edge of the sign to the right of way to the south is approximately 25 feet. The edge of the sign to the right of way on the east is, even with the V-shaped, is approximately 25 feet. And if you go towards Burbank Court, it is about 60 feet from there. If you go to the next slide, this shows the light levels on, you know, the pure dark night. So the light levels are equivalent to, probably the moonlight, if that. But again, the four lamp structures that are the four lamp structures of the roadway lights are also spill over to that area. So the ambient light in that area will not make this sign this bright beacon. And it also, this technology has automatic dimming, which keeps light levels to a minimum at night. To the next slide, please. That just goes to the other ambient light effects and the assumptions, and the unit of measurement for this graphic is foot candles. So it does take into account other ambient light levels. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh,
That's all I have.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there were some videos on there too. What we did was we did a video that showed what the basic messages would be. They would be simple. They would be put up with maybe, you know, advertising the specials of what they are. Like in the wintertime, it'd be furnace specials, or in the summertime, AC upgrades or cleaning, that type of thing. And plus, of course, plumbing needs that maybe folks aren't aware of in that neighborhood. The other thing as well is we had a drone footage that actually showed at the 70-foot and 75-foot levels that the folks, especially going westbound on the closest lane, would be able to see the sign easily without the wall hindering their visibility. So, you know, we had looked at maybe lowering the sign, but that then puts, you know, any type of illumination closer to the folks on the ground, and, you know, still that wall could hinder the visibility. And we thought that the height and the size was really worked for this area. The other thing I would say is we went around to all the residents, the adjacent residents, with our proposal, and we actually have signed approvals from all the adjacent property owners that they don't mind this project. They approve of what we're trying to do here. And we really think that this could be a good investment for this property and in this community as a whole, because it's, you know, it's expensive, but in terms of advertising over the long term, this is actually a very, very good investment for the customer. And we could also put up, you know, notices, Amber Alerts, other notices for, you know, communities type stuff that could certainly help this neighborhood as a whole.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, we do have Councilman Slipe with his hand raised for a while now. Sorry.
Councilman.
I do see Councilman Polensek is on. I don't know if we want to go to him first.
Hey, Mike, do you want to speak first or do you want to speak after Shannon? It's up to you.
And you are muted, Councilman.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
Yes.
me? I
Can
can
hear you.
I can speak after Shannon.
Okay, Shannon, why don't you walk us through the variances that are needed?
Okay. Shannon Leonard, City Planning. And so as the applicant stated, they are replacing this existing business identification sign with an 80-foot tall above grade and 6 feet below grade, 219 square foot double face pole sign with an electronic message center, which is also known as an automatic changeable copy sign. The zoning at this location is local retail business, and it's in a pedestrian retail overlay district. And so the real purpose of this sign, as stated for them, is that there's a 30-foot brick sound barrier that prohibits them from advertising their heating and plumbing services at the I-90 corridor. So this is the location here. As you can see, it's near the end of the PRO. However, to the east, it is also two-family residential to the north, and then I-90 to the south. The red rectangle that you see in the lower left corner is actually a legally existing a billboard by Lamar. It's within 183 feet of where this sign is being proposed. Next slide, please. And so this is really giving you some context of where McPhillips is. That sign that you see on the right-hand picture is the one that they're replacing, and they're going to replace it with an 80-foot tall sign. To the west is the Waterloo Road pedestrian retail overlay that's had a lot of work lately, as well as you can see on the left side, the residential that is directly to the north of this property. And then on East 161st Street, you can see that this property sits directly next to a occupied residential dwelling unit. Next slide, please. So why is this before you? Well, because Chapter 350 allows the Planning Commission or Landmarks Commission for properties that are in design review or landmarks districts to vary the sign code based on a strict set of parameters. And this was the real intent of this was to get really good signage that matches the design compatibility of our neighborhoods and our shopping districts. And so the requirements here are you may only vary such variation if it will result in signage that is better suited to the design of the subject property or nearby properties. It is following Planning Commission guidelines in terms of design and aesthetics. And it's also minimum variation, meaning any variation shall be the minimum necessary to ensure design compatibility. As you know, generally variances go through Board of Zoning Appeals, which requires a public hearing in which all neighboring residences are notified as well as businesses so they can weigh in on the matter, unlike City Planning Commission. Next slide, please. And so the applicant is proposing what they call a freeway interchange sign. So I'm going to explain to you why what a freeway interchange sign is and why this is not actually defined as a freeway interchange sign. So a freeway interchange sign obviously provides information to a highway traveler. It's permitted on a business parcel that is immediately adjacent to a freeway, and it's within 660 feet of the nearest freeway exit or entrance ramp. The height shall not exceed 80 feet above grade level. The sign shall not exceed 225 square feet. It must be located on a premise that's set back 5 feet from the freeway, 10 feet from any other street right of way, 25 feet from interior lot lines, 50 feet from residential district lines. Again, this property is completely adjacent to a residential district. It shall be oriented principally to the freeway, and it's only permitted in general retail zoning districts and industrial districts. Next slide, please. The reason why this is not a freeway interchange sign is because it is on a parcel that is not adjacent to the freeway, but across Waterloo Road, which we have a lot of properties that are across the streets from parcels that are adjacent to the freeway. This parcel is also 1,624 feet away from the nearest exit or entrance ramp. It is immediately adjacent to a residential district and a residential dwelling unit to the north. It's zoned local retail business and a pedestrian retail overlay. And there's a legally existing billboard within 183 feet. In other words, the proposed sign and location does not meet the requirements. And as if we did define it as a freeway interchange sign, they would need these variances. Next slide, please. And so this is actually a freestanding business identification sign. So a business sign is any sign that displays detailed information about a particular business. An identification sign identifies the naming of the business, building, or use. A freestanding sign is a sign not attached to a building, so like a pole sign. And then they're also proposing an automatic changeable copy sign. So it has copy that changes automatically or animation is displayed through electronic means. Next slide, please. And so the variance is required here. I'm going to walk you through each, but they need a sign face variance, they need a height variance, and they need an automatic changeable copy sign variance. Next slide, please. So the first thing is the sign face. So they're proposing a double-sided 219 square foot sign face on both sides of the vertical. And so basically, freestanding business identification signs are only permitted to have a maximum square footage of 50 square feet. This is in all retail districts as well as all industrial districts. So in this case, they would need 169 square foot variance per side. Next slide, please. The second thing is that they are proposing an 80-foot tall sign above grade. Local retail districts only allow for 12 feet, 25-foot height max in all other districts, including industrial districts. And so they need a 69-foot tall variance. To give you some more context, the billboards are a maximum of 50 feet and at no time can they be higher than the district upon which they are in. So this is a 2-height district. A maximum of 60 feet height would be allowed for a billboard. Again, they're proposing 80 feet. And to give you some context, the sound barrier is 30 feet tall. The AT&T antenna is 148 feet tall. The existing Lamar billboard that is next to the highway that is legally established is 42 feet, and they are proposing an 80-foot sign. So they need a 69-foot tall variance right here. Next slide, please. And so this is just to give you some context, what it looks like to the northwest as well as to the northeast. To the northwest, you can see the Waterloo PRO and where this 80-foot tall sign would go, which is 50 feet above the sound barrier. And to the northeast, you can see that even though this is the end of the PRO, it is all residential up to the northeast, up until you get closer to East 185th and 200th Street. So again, a 69-foot tall variance is required. Next slide, please. And so the third variance they need is automatic changeable copy. And so this would be regardless of whether they were in a PRO or not. It's for local retail. It automatically requires a variance. And so some of the things that you must think about is that the proposed sign will not adversely impact character of the nearby properties. It will not cause disturbances to those properties. Design and placement is approved by you all, and that each display of info is static or fixed for a minimum of 20 seconds, prohibiting flashing, scrolling, animated, or other, that it gives animation or more frequent displays can occur without disturbing nearby properties. Again, that would be your decision. And so the councilman, as well as design review, talked about how potentially it might be nice, or even the applicant, that we allow public and community messaging. Unfortunately, that is a off-premise context, and that we really can't really regulate that. That becomes a very content matter. And so if the councilman would like to see them have some type of community, welcome to Waterloo, whatever, that's something he would have to work out in the council legislative process. City planning really can't discuss that. Next slide, please. And so design review, we went to design review several times with this. And so Sharonda Watley, the planner for this area, could discuss it more, but I'm just going to kind of walk you through what happened at those meetings. And so there was initial motion to approve because 2 of the design review committee members were very empathetic that McPhillips was in this neighborhood for such a long time, which is great. They've been a great neighbor. They've been a great business. But the other members decided that, you know, they didn't quite meet the requirements needed for these such large variances, that there was definitely alternatives that could have been found. And so the sign face area and height variances did not meet the requirement amendment variation. And so the variance request for height over the sound barrier was excessive. A shorter sign would make more sense. And then also that the EMC was not necessary, that a regular static McPhillips or cabinet sign would have been sufficient at a lower height. It did not meet the requirements, again, a minimum variation. And then the second was that the sign face area height and the EMC did not meet the requirement of design compatibility. to enhance the character of property and the surrounding residential retail properties for planning commission ability to vary per 350.16 AB. And despite having a light study, the automatic changeable copy sign at 80 feet tall will be a nuisance to residential neighbors to the north. It is unnecessary and it does not enhance the character of the area. And to give you a little bit of context, 3.3 foot candles in terms of ambient light is something that is an industry standard across the board for our digital signs. And so to give you a little bit of context, the sign at the casino and the signs at the 9 and downtown are also at 0.3. So to give you the idea of how light and bright that would be over the residential neighborhood, as well as how clear to not only the neighborhood, but also to the motorist. And then also the two people that supported the initial to approve also kept using Rick Case Hyundai sign as a precedent to meet the visibility goals. And so a little bit about Rick Case Hyundai. It's now, I believe, Spitzer Hyundai. It's located at 1991 Villaview Road. It's on the Cleveland-Euclid border. It is a legally established freeway interchange sign, but it is a parcel that sits on an interchange. This sign is actually only 48 feet tall, and it is located in a residential industrial district, and it is within a commercial industrial corridor at a corner. It is also not within 50 feet of the residential district, as the sign itself sits about 120 feet off the property line that abuts a two-family residential district. And the sign also did not require any variances. Next slide, please. And so the three variances that you all must consider is the sign face. The freestanding business identification signs are only permitted to have a maximum sign face of 50 square feet. That's retail or industrial. So in this case, they would need 169 square foot variance. Local retail business districts only allow 12-foot high signs. Maximum height of other signs in other general retail or in industrial districts is 25 feet. They need a 69-foot tall variance. And then the automatic changeable copy signs automatically need a variance in a local retail business district based on the aforementioned standards. And so what you must consider, and you would have to put in your motion if you decide to move forward with granting these variances, is that does this signage result in better suited to design of the subject property or nearby properties? Does it meet design compatibility? Does the resultant signage follow CPC standard of approved design guidelines? And are these variances the minimum necessary to ensure design compatibility with surrounding properties and residential neighbors? And so that has to be we have to write that out completely according to code. If you all decide not to approve these variances, they could go to Board of Zoning Appeals, appeal your decision and request these variances, and all nearby neighbors and businesses would be notified to be able to attend that public hearing. Any questions?
Commission members? Councilman, would you like to say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Thank you. I'm very much aware of their request. I've been out to the property. I have met with Sean McPhillips and have looked at what has been presented. The challenge that they have had has been presented is that the noise wall has totally obstructed their business from what they once had. I've asked them to talk to the neighbors, which they did. Therefore, I am in support of granting the approval. Am I wedded to the 80-foot tall or whatever it is sign? Could it be lowered a little bit? I could live with that, but they still have to be able to see the sign over the noise wall from both directions. And they've angled the sign in a way which does not impact the residential neighborhood. In other words, the signs are angled in a way to just to face both the east and west traffic on I-90, which is one of the very heaviest traveled interstates in Northeast Ohio. So I'm here to support them. They've been in the community a long time. They've been a very good neighbor. They went and talked to the neighbors around their facility, and the neighbors are in support of it. So I'm here to express my viewpoint that I would urge the board to consider their request and to approve it.
Thank you, Councilman. Morris, do we have the video that shows the drone footage and the signage and the views from?
I have no videos.
Okay.
Maurice, Pega sent a link, and in the folder that link is to, there is a video in there.
I did not see that. I don't have them downloaded, so I couldn't do it right now.
Okay.
And if I might add as well, I really appreciate all the due diligence that that the folks in city planning have done to really review this case. But this is truly a unique case, and that's why I support it.
Thank you, Councilman. I mean, I hate to see a business adversely affected by the sound wall. So,
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Leonard had her hand raised again.
Go ahead, Shannon.
So we can completely understand that McPhillips is a long-standing business here. There are some, from a zoning perspective, there are some real concerns because there are several properties that are across the street from sound barriers across the city. And the sizes of these variances, whether they meet these planning commission considerations that are required, are pretty intense. And so I'd really hope that you all would give that consideration and thought. Understandably, not every case is the same, but there are a lot of properties like this. And so there's potentially maybe McPhillips could work out a way where an 80-foot tall sign, even though they are not directed directly at the residential neighborhoods directly, it will definitely be a beacon of light based on digital signs across the city and how we know they look at 0.3 foot candles and automatic dimming. And so that's something really, I think, important to consider. It's also in a pedestrian retail overlay for this type of sign. And we may say, oh, it doesn't set a precedent, but it could very well set a precedent. Just as people pointed towards the Rick Case sign, but the Rick Case sign is actually almost 37 feet shorter than the proposed sign at this location. And then this property also sits directly next to residential units. And so I think that there's a better sign option that would fit these considerations in terms of design compatibility and aesthetics, and meet the zoning code better than what is being proposed here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
What year was the noise wall built? How long ago was the noise wall put in?
Wow, it has to have been about a decade
That one
now.
is 2006.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like it impacted this a week ago. This is 14 plus years old. Correct?
Right. And something else to consider is that, at this day and age and after COVID, businesses really need to increase their digital and internet advertising. They also have a billboard across the street that they could work with in terms of if they're trying to get over that wall. There's also several other billboards. There's a billboard across I-90 as well that they could also do advertising with. And so I'm not going to dictate their advertising capabilities, but an 80-foot sign at this location is, from a zoning perspective, is a little bit extravagant.
Okay. Yeah, but I would say for them to pay for the billboard time is pretty expensive. So is building one, but building one, at least they own it and they can control it and have more advertising.
Mr. Chairman, we have Tom Yankovic with his hand raised again.
Tom, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want to add that the existing sign that they have that you cannot see now is 150 square foot at 26 foot high. So, even if you double that height, you may be able to get over that noise wall a little bit, but there are going to be some motorists that are going to struggle to view that. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Mr. Chairman, we have Director Collier and then August Fluker.
Go ahead, Director.
I'm going to be brief with this, but I just want you to consider how extreme the variances are. And when you consider this, just consider that if you get other requests and you go to this level of an extreme, then that's when you're going to have to really start to, concern yourself yourself with the precedent that you're setting. You have the ability to vary from the code, but to what degree? So just keep that in mind as to how extreme the requests are in the midst of potentially other requests that may come down the line if this happens.
Yep. August?
Yeah, I honestly think, just looking at the photograph here, I think there's some alternative ways to achieve exposure. And I mean, I see a parking lot across the street. Again, I don't know what constitutes an interchange sign once you, how close it needs to be, but I think there's, with less of an investment and potentially greater impact, I just think there's another alternative here. And whether the sign gets smaller, I honestly think there's a way beyond this extreme, in my opinion.
You know, I'd like to make a suggestion, if it's okay with everyone. I'd actually like to go out there with my drone and take a look at it. And we don't have the footage that they have. So for the next meeting, I'd like to have the remainder of the presentation. And I'd like to go out there with my drone, meet the councilman out there and any commission members that would like to.
Although I would say, David, I don't want to waste anyone's time. I have to be honest. For such a major kind of departure from the code, this is not a design issue. You know, we have latitude in signage, but I feel like for something this major, there should be public comment and notification. And I think that this is such a departure that it should go to Board of Zoning Appeals so that we're not creating a precedent. So I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be done, but I'm saying I'm not sure the Planning Commission is the right vehicle at the moment because there has not been notification. I think we're in a safer position for the future if we let BOZA handle this, and I also don't want to waste people's time. So that's where I sit, is I'd rather see this go to BOZA than it get determined here, because it is such a significant departure and does not represent the latitude that we normally have when we do increased signage. So that's my position.
Well,
I agree with Lillian. I think that was probably the best course of action.
well, I can't make a motion or a second it.
All right.
You guys can.
I would
Lillian, did you
agree
wanna
as
make a
well.
motion?
And I'm going to move disapproval, Downing.
Second, Curry.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to disapprove. Further discussion? Call the roll, Michael.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
It's
Mr. Bowen,
denied. Yes.
if they are to appeal this, when they go to appeal to Board of Zoning Appeals, they will need to appeal City Planning Commission's decision as well as appeal for the variances that they will need.
And we have Director Collier with his hand raised again.
Go ahead, Director.
Yes, real quick, I just want to be clear, and I want to make this clear that this is not a lack of support for this mainstay of a business in the community. I think that the analysis by the Board of Zoning Appeals will put you in a better position to have the necessary dialogue, as Ms. Curry stated. So I just want to be clear and go on record that, you know, this is not an indictment against the business at all. And definitely want to support and make sure that you and other businesses in the city have the appropriate supports that they need, particularly during a time like this. However, the ability to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals gives you that opportunity to have the further discussion needed to make the right determination for how much this sign should be able to, you know, vary from the code. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that message is clear to everyone.
Councilman, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Councilman, can I still meet you out there?
Yes. Yeah, we could. I have no problem. Just contact my office and we'll set it up.
I'll do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's denied. Near West Design Review, proposed demolition of a 2.5-story mixed-use building. This one's being done by Matt.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can explain what's going on with this one. I've reached out to the applicant and I've invited them to the design review meeting and to the planning commission meeting, but they haven't been responding to my communication. And this has been submitted for, this came to our office because of, it's part of a permit application. And this building caught on fire last November.
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up.
I'm sorry.
You're breaking up.
Can you all hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, I'm going to keep my video off just so I can hopefully transmit more clearly. Anyway, like I was saying, this project came to our office through the permit process. So the owner of this property has submitted a permit to demolish this. This building caught on fire last November, early November of last year, and has been sitting since. And the owner has applied to demolish it due to the fire damage that you can see from these photos. I communicated with the applicant, the demolition contractor for this project, and invited them to the Near West meeting and to this planning commission meeting, but they haven't responded to my request. So I put it on the agenda for review based on the conversation with the local chairperson of that committee, and we reviewed this based on the photos presented. The committee did recommend that this building be demolished based on the evidence shown in the photos, but happy to have a discussion with you all if you think that this is something that we should review with the building owner, or if just based on the appearance of it now and from my observations on the street that it presents a hazard as it stands now. There were some committee members who were concerned about the fire damage and how it might withstand any further weather, but happy to answer questions.
Matt, who's the demo contractor? You said there was a demolition contractor?
Yes, let me look it up right now. I don't have that information in front of me right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I may interject.
Go ahead.
Director Donald from Building and Housing. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good morning.
And can you give me the address and I'll look it up quickly because I believe that this is ringing a bell. I didn't come prepared to speak to this. What's the address again?
It's 3267 West 25th.
Complete Reclamation Services Incorporated is the contractor that I have that has applied for the permit.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was in touch with Mr. Ryan Cronin from that demolition contractor.
Chairman, I'm ready to move approval, but I would like to ask Director Donald just a point of clarification, if I could. I know that the city is able to declare a property an emergency and do a forthwith demolition and then charge back to the owner. But is there any mechanism in a situation like this where a property owner could request some sort of forthwith inspection and be able to bypass the planning commission? I guess I'd hate for a building like this that could be structurally unstable to collapse and injure someone as it's having to go through the planning process. So some clarification on how that would work would be useful.
Sure. So technically, we try not to use, well, first and foremost, if a property owner is responsible and is, would like to tear down their own property, we strongly encourage that. And we try not to use our pen power, so to speak, for our chief building official as far as a forthwith situation to tear down a property when there's already a private contractor that's involved in this. So there are rare situations where that does happen, where someone may contact us to say, hey, the property is in imminent danger of collapse or the structural integrity is compromised, where our chief building official may make that forthwith determination that they can use to bypass this process. But in this situation, that did not occur. No request was made by the contractor. It does not appear from my record. Our inspector did go out back in December. That's when it appears that the fire happened, late November, early December. And at that time, the owner did indicate that they were going to raise the structure on their own.
Thank you.
Commission members?
Move approval, Downing.
Second, Fluker.
Motion second, further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. West Park Library renovation. This is at 3805 West 157th Street. Who's here for this one?
Eric Herman with the Public Library.
Laura Reese with VOCON.
Okay, Eric and Laura, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
I do. We also have Daniel McDonald here to make part of the presentation as well. I'm sorry, Daniel, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, so Daniel will be here as well.
Can I swear you in, Daniel?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right. Go ahead.
So we're here today, thank you for having us, to make a presentation for schematic design approval for the library renovation for the West Park project. It's a lovely 1928 Walker and Weeks building located at the corner of Lorraine and West 157th. The building also had an addition generated in 1970s, and we've been working closely with the community, determined that the structure is loved. The Walker and Weeks portion of the structure is very loved, and the community wants to maintain that, excuse me, as much as possible. And so that's really one of the goals of our renovation, is to maintain that portion of the building and to reopen the entry that had been existing on the 157th side of the project. The main energy of the project will be focusing on revitalizing the entry to the building and a renovation of the interior of the structure to offer a more welcoming and modern experience with improved accessibility. So we're also going to be addressing some overall building maintenance issues. And I think that Daniel will actually describe the more specifics with our actual presentation. So Daniel, do you want to take it away?
Yes, thank you very much. So this first slide here, this is our location map. So we are the Cleveland Public Library West Branch location. We are here at Triscuit and just down the street from Cam's Corners, just to orient everyone to our exact location. If we go to the next slide, please. This is the site plan as existing. Lorraine Avenue is to the north. The existing library presents this very long, elegant facade to West 157th Street. And then the new addition that was put on in this newer edition, the 70s edition, addresses the parking lot that was also added in the 70s and orients itself back towards Silsby Road and the residential neighborhood. We are up very close next to the existing fire station. And on the east side of the property, a fence separates us from the Cleveland Clinic property, from that parking area there. The existing accessible entry is located at the south entrance, the 1970s edition entrance facing the parking lot. And that is currently the only way in and out of the building. Next slide, please. So these are the existing exterior views. The first view on the left is from Lorraine Avenue. This is it's a lovely elevation, but it is very much a secondary elevation compared to the elevation you see on the right, which is along 157th. So this is clearly a neighborhood-focused building. It's a very beautiful building, Tudor Revival. It's sort of on a heroic residential scale. It is rightfully recognized and beloved by the community. It is something that was built for them and that they have cherished for consistently for over 100 years. And we spent a lot of time talking to library patrons, reviewing previous community engagement surveys and results in meetings, and just really trying to listen and respond and understand how people felt about this building and what place it what place it played in their lives. Go to the next slide, please. And then this is the existing addition that was put on in the 70s. This is a less beloved portion of the building. It is no less of its time, and you'll see as we go through our design, we very much support and appreciate the idea that we need to make a contrast between what is historic and what is new. But this building is, this particular addition, once again, it does not evoke the same sense of welcome and care as the existing building. And, as we often see with buildings from this era, some of the moves, some of the detailing, some of the impulses and technology they were trying to incorporate have resulted in building and grounds that is rather high maintenance. So if we go to the next slide, please. This high level, this is our proposed site plan. So if we start at Lorraine Avenue, you'll see this is a very light touch, but starting at Lorraine Avenue, the existing electric service is inadequate for modern use. So we have a new transformer that is going in the corner of the lot. We are unfortunately constrained by by all of the requirements surrounding transformers, but we are going to more than adequately shield it with vegetation. Coming around, there is an entrance on West 157th. We are reopening that just with doors for the moment. And then coming back around Silsby Road and into the parking lot. We are making minor changes to the parking lot to make the ADA parking level and permanent and more accessible. And then we are slightly altering and recladding the existing 1970s building, adding a monumental stair entrance that steps down to a sloped lawn area that the library will use for outdoor gathering and programming, and also patrons will be able to use it for casual recreation. And that is bounded by a long ADA ramp that is integrated into the landscape. So it's a very gentle, very efficient, very elegant solution, and will also be much more attractive and easy to maintain than what the library has currently. So we can go to the next slide, please. Here's a slightly more clear impressionistic rendered version of those landscape changes. We have already spoken to Near West Design Review, and they have requested some additional trees along the north, south, and east sides of the building. And they've also asked us to examine our tree species choices to include species that are more considered to be legacy trees, longer lived, slower growing, larger shade trees. And we are happy to incorporate those suggestions, and you will be seeing those revisions in later presentations as we progress. We go to the next slide, please. This is the plant palette as presented originally. Once again, these are This is a mix of natives and hardy, non-invasive introduced species. Our landscape architect's impulse is to complement the existing the Tudor Revival architecture with a sort of cottage garden feel to the planting. So these are all hardy and familiar. It's a simple and effective color palette, and it is arranged for easy maintenance, so that so that we can have not guarantee, but an attractive presentation, with minimal fuss. So if we go to the next slide, please. So here we are looking at some renderings of what we are proposing. So these are two views from Lorraine Avenue, and what we are intending to show here are two minor but very important design elements. We have to install new HVAC units, and the HVAC units are larger, and we are locating them as discreetly as we can on the flat portion of the existing building and screening them. So you will see that at the far left-hand side of the rendering on the left. And then one of the requests from Near West Design is to add additional trees in this area to screen that further. Again, we're looking at how to locate that tree so that future electric maintenance and so forth doesn't cause it to be dug up. But we will do what we can to screen that further with vegetation. And then by the time you get to the corner of Lorraine and 157th, that presence is obviously much more subtle. And then the other major move we're making on this elevation is that we need to replace the roof. The existing roof is a graduated Vermont slate roof that was part of the original building. About 3/4 of the slates are in good condition. Unfortunately, the underlayment has deteriorated completely, and the roof itself is uninsulated. This necessitates a complete replacement of the roof. We have explored reinstalling the graduated slate, and it is not feasible. So we are proposing to go in with all new Vermont slate, matched in color to the existing slate, and then in a single size we're determining what size is most amenable to the dimension and scale of the roof. So we're replacing the existing slate roof with a new natural slate roof. If we go to the next slide, please. Along 157th, this is the existing main entrance of the building. It was closed off in the 70s. We are planning on reopening it. Right now, it is going to be emergency egress only, but we are doing this to position the library to make connections to 157th and then back up to Lorraine as well when they're able to do so. If we can go to the next slide, please. And then this is our plan for our work at the existing 70s addition. So this remains the main entrance, but given how the community reacts to this building and the like I said, just the general lack of affection for it and the maintenance issues associated with some of the detailing on the outside, we are proposing to keep it, for a variety of economic and sustainability reasons. Remove some of the more aggressive design features of it, and then reclad it in a material that we think is complementary, and then speaks of our time and our design conversations in a way that the 70s edition spoke to that time. So what you see here is the existing edition with new openings, enlarged openings to try and bring as much light into it. We are cladding it in a face fastened trespa in a color that complements the brick. And then we are inserting these bronze aluminum metal portals into these new openings to provide shade and shelter and to reproduce the that technique from the 157th entrance, where shelter into the building is provided by recessing the entrance into the building rather than providing an overhanging canopy. You can see the monumental stair coming down to the sidewalk and the parking lot. Along the edge there, near that young woman in the blue shirt, you can see the ADA ramp framing the landscape and coming up towards the main entrance. And then at the top of the stairs there, I'm sorry? And then at the top of the stairs, there's a bench framed into one of the niches that just offers another seating option, addressing the lawn where you see the community gathering in this rendering. Go to the next slide, please. And then just so that the committee is aware of some of the interior moves that are driving some of these exterior changes, this is the existing lower level plan. It is meeting rooms and mostly utility spaces. Go to the next slide. This upper level plan, right? So this is the existing library where we have a lot of uses all sort of mixed together. Some of the feedback from the community is that they have some issues using this space because the teenagers and the computers and the children and the adults all are in such close proximity. So if we go down to the next slide, we are proposing to open up some of the original existing area wells, insofar as is economically feasible at this point, into the children and teen area, into the basement. We're providing a connection between the upper and lower floor with a large open stair in the middle, and an elevator to the lower right. And we are giving the teens and children their own computer areas, their own browsing areas, their own activity areas that are a part of the library, but not immediately adjacent to the adult and circulation areas on the main level. If you go to the next slide, please. You take a breath too. So on the main level, there's the open stair in the middle. You can see where we are hopefully someday making that 157 entrance a main entrance again. The adult library stacks, that is an existing area that's covered with a drop ceiling. We're opening that up to the original vaulted ceiling. And then the green and purple areas to the east of the plan. You'll forgive us, for reasons of presentation, this is oriented 90 degrees from true north. We are turning the 70s edition and the lower part of the original building into community and circulation areas. We have various meeting rooms, community rooms, all sorts of services that the community has indicated are desired and important to them through our various conversations with them. I believe, for the next slide, I believe that ends our presentation. It does not. We have, I always forget that these hardline elevations are in here. This is just a brief, slightly more technical summary of the exterior moves, which we've already talked about looking at the renderings. That continues on to the next slide. There's our new trespa at the elevation, and now I believe we are done if we click through to the next slide. Thank you all very much.
Commission members?
I'll move approval, but I just want to say as the local council member, well, I guess I should hold off on the motion. I can make it eventually, but I do want to give that opportunity for others to speak. But I guess I'm incredibly enthusiastic about this project. This is, I understand, the #1 in Cleveland Public Library branch in circulation, so it's heavily used, much beloved by the neighborhood. Just the little historical context, this was the original West Park Village Hall. And, we all know West Park was annexed by Cleveland in the 20s so that we could all have lower streetcar fares. So that's going real good for all of us. But it's a beautiful, historic, much loved building. And I want to kind of congratulate Mr. McDonald for his PR spin, because when it comes to that 1977 extension, he's very politely said that it doesn't really align with the rest of the structure. But within the interior, there's also plans to get rid of some drop ceilings to really celebrate the space as it currently exists. And the library, to its credit, has also been working closely with the neighborhood on shared parking agreements so that there's an ability to kind of preserve some buildable lots in the area. So they've been a great partner to work with, and we're really excited to see this project going. The only thing I'd request is the design review was very excited about replacing the slate with slate. If there's a possibility that the library and its contractor could work with the community and try to keep the slate that's being removed instead of that going to a landfill, there could be a good reuse for that, even if it's in gardens in the neighborhood or some other project. I'd like to explore that possibility because it'd be a shame to lose that beautiful slate, even if it's a bit deteriorated. So with that, I'll let other people comment if they'd like.
Thank you, Councilman.
I'll second your motion, except I really like the project a lot, so second.
We have a motion second. Further discussion?
I'd just like to tell the councilman, I will say that we hadn't really thought about keeping the slate as something that the community, this is a little bit news to me, but certainly we'll get together with you if there is, a desire in the community to reuse that slate. The library is not making this a LEED project. We're only making our new buildings LEED certified, but we are emphasizing sustainability in all of our projects. And if we can find reuse for that slate, that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, we could put our heads together on that one. It came to me in a dream, so I apologize for not getting that to you sooner. So.
Great. Okay, Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen.
Yes.
Downing. Diane, are you there? Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck. See you soon.
Thank you.
The next one
Thank you.
is
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Dunkin'
Chair,
Donuts. Hello?
may I request that the forthcoming applicants provide a brief overview so that we can get through this? Because I fear we're going to start losing members. Thank you.
Well, you're going to lose me on this one. Lillian's going to have to take over. I was just going to say that it's the Dunkin' Donuts retail store, new construction, and Lillian, I'm leaving, so you're going to have to take over.
Okay, how many items do we have, David, still? We have this, do you know?
Oh, we have quite a few. What I would suggest, Lillian, is after the Dunkin' Donuts, there's a whole bunch of demolitions. Go to the other design reviews and then go back to the demolitions.
Okay. All right. And if I could ask for everybody, just so we can get through the agenda, because I have a hard stop at noon. So let's move pretty quickly through and focus on exterior mostly and what we need to handle here. So thank you. All right. Who's going to present this at 6001 Hillman Ave?
That would be me, Steve Colber.
I need to swear you in, and anyone else who's going to speak, and I'll do my best because I don't have the paperwork in front of me. So here we go. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall, under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so what we're doing here at this location is building a drive-through only Dunkin' Donuts. It's pretty straightforward. The site is at Broadway and Hillman, existing building to be raised accordingly, and my client is acquiring the lot to the north to round out the property itself. We go to the next slide, please. So you can see the property lines here of what's existing, and then that furthest north property within the dark dashed line is something that he's acquiring for our project. And that's a city-owned property from what I understand. So he's in the process of going through that to purchase that property. Next slide, please. So here's our site plan. This is a typical for what Dunkin' is doing now on a national basis for a drive-through only offering. which is what we wanted to do initially, was a drive-through only, but after meeting with, speaking with staff and representatives from the Slavic Village, we added a walk-up window at the front end and that patio, which wasn't part of the original offering. So the patio and the walk-up window is something that was added to the project. It consists of the overall a double drive-through, as you can see, and really 2 windows to service clients quickly, and just a big old bypass lane that wraps around the entire facility. Next slide, please.
Sure.
So these are existing photos of the site as what's out there right now. So you get a feel for what the existing property looks like. Next slide, please. More of the same, just more existing photos. I'm sure these were in your packet. Next slide, please. Landscaping plan that, again, we went back and forth. We had some few comments with the design review and updated accordingly for what we're showing here for the property. Next slide, please. And then just the next few slides are just the typical exterior elevations for this Duncan element. We added a few things per plan commission. This is the rear elevation, the north elevation, the window, of course, at the POS, point of sale at the first window. Next elevation, please. And this is the south elevation. We added transom window above the transaction window at the request of plan commission, design commission. And that window you see there, that is the walk-up window, and the menu board adjacent to it to the left. Next slide, please. This is what's facing to the east, I believe. No, the west. This is the west elevation. I'll show you the 2 drive-through windows, and the graphic you see there is, typical what Duncan does for the graphic between the windows. This is up against, there's a building to the west directly from us, so this is not really a street view thing. It's just more for the people going through the drive-through. And next elevation, please. And the east elevation itself with the same graphic, the DD that Duncan is scaling back their logo to, and then a panel that's added to pretty much all their projects that we do that are ground up that says Cleveland runs on Duncan with some gooseneck lighting above it. And the window that you see actually under the DD, that was something that was added by the request of design review meetings. Next slide, please. And a rendering of the facility. And I think there's some exterior signage, and there we go. And the next slide is just a typical floor plan. It's very sparse, just really an operational Duncan without the dining room.
Okay, I don't think we need the interior commission members.
Madam Chair, we have August.
Yeah, I would like to advocate that you guys, the owner, developer, Duncan, do something more permanent at the crosswalk than paint. Because there's a confluence of traffic, cars, and people are trying to cross to that cross-through. If it's a more permanent material, whether it's stamped concrete or something that complements or picks up the material in the patio, so it feels like it's part of like that patio, so people actually acknowledge it and slow down.
Yep. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, what we just instituted in a couple other projects were, as you can imagine, with the way things are in the world, a lot of the Duncans that we're doing are drive-through onlys, because those are the ones that have been really successful. And we've been doing, let's call it a modified, a mountable curb, where it's a little bit of a raise in concrete that gives exactly what you're looking for. And we're more than happy to do that here too.
Okay. Anyone else? And then we'll add that to the motion. August, you want to make a motion then?
We have Director Collier with his hand raised, Madam Chair.
Okay. We're trying to get through the agenda, but with respect to the drive-through, is it possible to move that curb cut from that corner and bring it more to the adjacent parcel? So when you pay for your items, you can go straight out and you wouldn't have to come back in front of the property? Can we go to the site plan?
Yeah, if we can see the site plan, if we can go back to the site plan, please. The reason why we didn't do that is if you see those 3 parking spots up front, those are the spots you just ordered the 12 boxes of Joe and 32 dozen of donuts. That's why they say pull up there and we're going to take care of you. And we preferred, or at least the brand prefers, with the drive-through where the curb cut is now, only for the fact that if ever, it's usually 10 cars is the max, that we like to see. But if anything starts to it's a busy day for whatever reason, we're allowing for a straight shot for cars in the queue, and then the cars that are coming from the drive-through can just navigate on the way out.
Madam Chair, we also have Shannon Leonard with her hand
Sure.
raised.
Plus, Director, you'd need 2 curb cuts, which I don't think would be ideal either.
Right, we're trying to maintain the existing ones there.
More existing curb cut would be better. All right, Shannon, and then let's get a motion. Maybe she doesn't, Maurice.
She just raised her hand. Shannon?
You hear me?
Yes.
I apologize. Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what level of approval this is, but the applicant has been made aware that there is a 43-foot specific map setback from the center line. That parking on the south side facing Broadway is within that setback, and BZA is limited. There are specific landscaping requirements that the applicant will need to meet for BZA to have the ability to grant that variance for parking to be permitted into that encroachment. Just so you all are aware.
Okay.
And that was made clear to us as well. But to have those pull-up spots are really crucial. So we're looking to go through that process and satisfy the requirements of BZA accordingly.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. We have a motion.
Move to approve project as presented with the caveat that the applicant and developer integrate a permanent material in the crosswalk that ties into the plaza area for pedestrians.
I'll second, Paul.
Motion and second. Can you call the roll?
Downing. I think she's still not here. Okay. Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, next item, we're going to stay on design review. So if we could do the demolitions last, that would be great. Keep going.
Hold on, having some technical difficulties.
We heard that. By the way, that's on the record. That would be on the record and taped.
Okay. There we go.
Yep. So this is project is at 1866 East 93rd Street. This is a design review case. Those who are speaking, if you could raise your hand or say something because I need to swear you in.
Brandon Klein with Guys Companies.
Okay, Brandon. Anybody else speaking with you?
Richard Arnstein or Zach Pinker may speak, but I doubt it.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as usual answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I just would like to make clarification. It was on the agenda that this was being requested for approval. We did gain final approval yesterday with design review, and we would request the same from the Planning Commission. we were in front of the Planning Commission in mid-December and gained approval for this project. The project's located on Chester and East 93rd, a quarter of a block inset off of Chester, to the north of the Cleveland Clinic campus. Next slide. Some context of the area as you leave the institutional gateway of the clinic and into a more residential residential street along 93rd. There are a couple of small apartment buildings as you enter that street, and then two residential properties. Next slide. Contextually, there's obviously a Nova residential that's on the corner of Chester and one block over, Heritage Apartments as well as one street over, and then some nicer, I'll call them 2.5-story, 3-story houses on the street as well. Next slide. The project entails 2 one-way access drives into the 4-parcel site. Will be lot consolidated. 3 of the site parcels are currently controlled by the developer. The 4th is a land bank parcel that is conditionally approved on the condition of final planning approval for that transfer to move forward. It's a 4-story, 42-unit building. Next slide. Here's a present makeup since this was submitted. The option to purchase land in the kind of the lavender color has been acquired and transferred, and so the only parcel remaining is in the green. And again, it has conditional approval from the land bank. There is a fair amount of parcels behind the site that currently are land bank land as well, and would lend themselves to potential future expansion. Next slide. There's hopes that that could be an additional 118 units, a part of the same development and with connection. Next slide. The land's again a 4-story building, 42 units, some small amenities for a building of that size. Next slide. Some exterior lighting and features. Wall sconces at each balcony. Every unit will have a balcony. Some wall packs on the exterior wall to provide site lighting. There will be no light poles. And then one of the major elements in discussions with planning was to create a street frontage and pedestrian experience. All the units along on the ground floor will be walk up. They'll have a stoop and 3 steps or a ramp for the stepful unit to be able to access. So you maintain that same kind of that happens up and along the street. Next slide. Landscaping of the project. There's a swale in the rear to handle stormwater tension, and then landscaping at the front to complement the existing very mature tree-lined trees that encompass this street. Next slide. Here's a rendering. When we gained approval from planning, it was asked to take a look at alternate color options for what now is this kind of copper gold color. Originally, it was a pale yellow that kind of mimicked and pulled from one of the adjacent residences. This is the modification at planning or design review yesterday. We gained final approval with a couple of conditions. Obviously, as everyone is well aware, material prices are soaring. Since we presented this project to maintain and be able to move this project forward, some concessions had to occur on the exterior, and we are going to bring back some of those elements that we pulled away. But those elements that were agreed to was putting a more established cornice on top of the gold projections or the orange-colored copper projected areas, and then holding the corner with a canopy above the 2 corner balconies along East 93rd. And then next slide, extending the warm wood wrap through the window on this corner to hold that in again, and adding that cornice as well. Next slide. Materials of the project. is a cherry grain faux veneer, metal veneer, some plank James Hardy siding, and then the gold or copper color cypress yellow is a board and batten, and then integral CMU. Next slide. These were the original renderings that we submitted and gained approval from planning and design review back in December. Next slide. Next slide. And these are the accepted modifications that we agreed to establish and put back. Again, hold that corner, wrapping that corner, putting the canopy back above that balcony along East 93rd on both sides, and then a more established cornice above the color projections. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, commission members.
Actually, I like the yellow. Typically, I wear color, but but I just wanted to say that. I'm not saying you could go back, but I like the yellow.
I disagree. I like this much better. Let's fight. Commission, any other comments?
A motion to approve, Paul.
Second.
We had a motion and a second from August. Any other discussion or comments? I just want to say thank you for the considerations and the development of the project. So appreciate that from your team.
Appreciate it. And can I clarify the motion for final approval?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Let's call the roll.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes. There's some feedback, but I don't think that's me. Yes.
It's not you.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck. Let's see. The next is the City Club Apartments accessory installations. This is for final approval. Who's here to speak to this?
Bill Colano is here.
You have a really bad echo, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of feedback.
Hold on, we're trying to resolve that.
You might want to turn your speaker down.
And anyone else who's going to speak, I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay.
Are you logged in? Are you logged in twice? Because we're getting a tremendous amount of feedback and echo every time you speak.
Do not think so. We had somebody in an adjacent office logged in who we canceled.
I have a William Colano and a Bill Colano, both logged in.
It's better now.
There you go.
Is that better?
No. Nope.
Hold on. Is that any better? I'm logged in twice.
No.
What do you think, Maurice? Go to the next one and come back when he must have to shut down and log in.
That's fine.
Bill, are you okay if we do that? We're just really short on time. All right, let's go to the next item. This is Flats design review case, Brewdog renovation, you went too far, 1956 Carter Road. Is Julianne here from Vocon?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Do you and anyone else who's going to speak, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead. And if you could move pretty quickly through, that'd be great.
I will. So this is on the Scranton Peninsula. Brewdog is an international microbrewing, craft brewing company. They are taking, next slide, I'll show you where we are. They are going to lease the first floor of the Avian building, which if you look at Google Earth right now looks really bad shape, but the landlord totally renovated the building. And they're going to be moving into the first floor. and taking the rear yard to the river with an option to lease the second floor to expand. Next slide, please. So you can see the existing building up on the upper left and the middle there. The next photo on the upper right is the view to the river. And the bottom left is the view from the roof. And you can see over to the right, that's our neighbor to the north there of our site. And this is why we want to put a solid fence, which is going to be a combination of metal posts and wood infill, solid wood infill along that whole fence line, possibly stepping down toward the river. And in the middle there, you can see we're in the green there along the back of the river. We're going to propose to put pylons, concrete pylons there with anchor chains, similar to what you see at Voinovich Park and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And on the right, you can see there is a beautifully landscaped stone paver path between the parking lot and the existing building. And along the parking lot there, between the path and the parking lot, you can see the existing foundation of what used to be the old building or possibly a crane. Next slide, please. You can skip, this is the existing site plan. So this driveway and this parking is all paved. It's existing there. The curved path going along the back is not existing, but the stone paver patio behind there is. Next slide, please. I'm going to skip, well, as of right, the lease area in the blue is actually a temporary lease area that they're negotiating with the owner, that whatever they put in this area will have to be removed within 60 days notice. They're showing some additional seating, a dog park because this is a dog friendly establishment, and a playground. Next slide, please. This shows the playground moved into the as of right lease area in the rear yard, which is on the, if you can see that exterior stone patio, there's some yellow highlighting. The playground is located right there. The rest of the exterior will be various seatings, fire pits. Some of the seating will actually be shipping containers with the sides removed, interior lighting. And then the dashed rectangular in the middle of the site is a structure that's going to be steel with a retractable fabric canopy, kind of like a sunshade. And then in the middle of the site off to the right there, or north there, will be a outdoor bar that will be constructed within a shipping container. And they creating different zones for different experiences for the guests in the backyard. Next slide, please. So you can see this is with the temporary lease area removed. This is what's going to be constructed in the as of right lease area in the back of the property. Next slide. So these are some precedent images of what the rear yard is going to be like. The shipping containers, you can see that orange container in the upper left-hand side. The lawn back there is very nice. We went there after it snowed. It wasn't damp or squishy. So they want to maintain that nice lawn, add some paths for ADA accessibility, but keep the rest of the ground surface soft. See the festival lighting and just the natural wood seating and the fire pits. Next slide, please. And these are some precedent images for the dog park and also the playground. They are probably going to purchase a prefabricated playground, or we're looking at with the landscaping coming up with maybe some custom playground designs. Next slide, please. So this gives you just a quick aerial view. And so the fence will be constructed along the north property line there. And then we're looking at adding some signage. So the owner would really love to have 2 signs on top of the roof. As you know, this area is kind of isolated from, there's pretty much no development down there for the public. This is going to really activate this area on the Scranton Peninsula. So they'd like to add 2 large signs to the roof in a V shape. We're looking at relocating them just a little bit to create screening for the rooftop equipment that's up there. Next slide, please. And the sign that you see, kind of the gantry crane sign over the driveway, we're still negotiating that with the owner, so that is not part of what we're asking for at this time. But the sign, the eternally illuminated sign on the side of the building in the lower image on the blue painted brick, that sign, the menu sign that is adjacent just to the left of the entry doors, the sign on top of the existing canopy, and then the flag sign that is on the right-hand side of the building there. And these will all be internally illuminated LED signs, including the signs on the roof at the rear of the property. Next slide. I think these just show additional images of what is being proposed for the outdoor area. So in the essence of time, are there any questions regarding this project?
Commission members?
I move to approve. This is conceptual, so we'll see these guys again.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great
Second.
project. We got a motion and a second from Charles. Any other discussion? Great project. So let's call the roll.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight,
Yes.
Motion carries. Let's go back to the City Club and see if we can get that going.
Can you hear us better now?
Yes, much better.
Better.
Sorry, we're logged in 2 adjacent offices, and I think that's what the problem was.
Okay. I'm going to swear you all in. If there you or any others are speaking, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. And I know you have a lot of slides, so to say, focus on, the exterior, those things with the design review and things that we should be focused on.
When we were before you for conceptual approval, there were 2 outstanding questions that were triggered by DRAC. We were before them yesterday, and they have approved of what we presented. And I'll run through that for you. Next slide. This is just to locate the property on Euclid Avenue. Next slide. 2 views, looking east and looking west. We are the parking lot property. And please note in the left image, the canopy that is on the building that will be to the right of the City Club apartments. The 2 signs that we are questioning today, reviewing today, are marked on the right-hand side photo. There is a mesh screen on the parking garage, and there is a portal that marks the drive to the entrance to the parking garage. Next slide. To orient us, we showed option 1 in the upper left corner, and this was pulling the portal in line with the building to the left. And it is slightly forward of the facade of the City Club apartments, but in line with the planting walls. A second request was to pull the island back for ticketing, which we've done, and it allows more cars to queue and not back up anything on Euclid Avenue. The blue bar at the bottom locates the mesh screen that is on the parking garage. Next slide. Looking in the upper left again at that drive, DRAC had made a suggestion to pull the portal back 5 feet to be in line with the City Club apartment facade. Their choice, after seeing the renderings that we're going to show you, is for option 1, to keep it at the curb line. Next slide. This is what the portal looks like. It is illuminated from internally with some growies on it and a big P to mark the entrance. Next. We can skip this. It's just how the portal is constructed. Yes, there are rate signs along with it. We can skip through this. If there's lighting, we can skip this. More lighting, skip. And this has to do with the position of the mural mesh on the garage. And when we showed it to you the last time, we had just shown a facade of the garage with the mural on it without context. So this is an environmental rendering showing it from at the end of the parking roadway, and when it just comes into view. Next. This is an overlay of the building showing the window views and the apartments that will be looking out into the mesh screen. And the mesh screen aligns with those apartment windows, and that's why it was placed there, and that's why it's sized where it is. And you'll note that the bottom of the building is windowless, and therefore there's no need to have the mural extend any lower than it is. Next. This is the view from East 8th Avenue, and you can see that it is barely even visible. Next.
Why the zoo image while you're there? Like, why that image?
The owners of City Club have an affinity for the zoo. They think the image is going to be really in touch with their target market. It's a rather surprising, delightful, unusual view.
Is it a view of our zoo or a random zoo? What zoo is that?
It was furnished by the zoo.
Cleveland.
The Cleveland Zoo.
Okay.
And
Director Collier. Sorry, Director Collier had his hand raised.
Just along those lines, just can it be changed periodically?
I didn't hear the question fully.
Can the illustration or the mesh image be changed periodically?
Yes. It should last several years and is a very high performance product. This is another view from the portal just after you drive through the portal, and you can see from Euclid Avenue, it is not even able to be seen. Next detail. This is the product. It's a mesh. The mesh is going to block headlight from the garage into the apartments, and then people looking out the apartments will not look into the cars in the garage. So it's really dual purpose from either side. Next. This is the rendering showing the portal closer to the sidewalk. Next. And from the other direction. And we're concerned about traffic being able to see that portal in driving eastbound. And that's why the forward position is preferred. Next. This is pushed back 5 feet. Next. And the other view where you can see it is more recessive. And we think it's important to have it pulled forward. And that's our presentation.
So are you, show us the portal that you're proposing today and the one that design review, the pushed forward.
Go back 2 or 3.
2 slides.
And did design review approve the one that you're showing us?
Yes, they approved the option 1 where it is forward, more in line with the edge of the sidewalk.
Okay. Commission members, any comments?
I like it. I like the greenery. I think it helps break up what otherwise could just be a big piece of metal.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, commission members?
I'll move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other commentary before we take a motion? I'll say I don't love the zoo image, but I guess it's temporary. I personally think that slightly out of context in terms of, but I understand it. I just think there's probably more imagery that, anyway, but it's your choice. So let's take the roll.
Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Slide.
Yes.
And that's motion carries. We have gone through design review. We just have the demolition. So if we could fly through those, go back to them. And I don't think we have to swear them in because it's the city presenting. They all look in bad shape. So let's get through them pretty fast.
Thank you. I'll wait until the first page is up and I can talk fast. So I'll make this happen.
All right. If there are any that we should really pause and think about, let us, make sure if there are. Okay. The first one, is this it? Is, let's see, what's the address? It is 2977 East 79th Street.
Yep.
Sorry, trying to go
So-
faster than you could read.
Yes. No, but thank you. We're seeking approval for this property on East 77th. You can see here the site location and site context. Next slide. The property is in fairly bad shape, just a wood 2-story structure. Next slide. There has been no attempts to redeem this property. It's surrounded by vacant property.
I move to
See the interior photos, please.
No, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Fluker,
yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. The next one's 7024 Grand Avenue.
And I'll fly through all of these together. These are all sites that will be demolished in advance of police headquarters off of Grand Avenue and in that general vicinity. All of them are vacant and owned by the city of Cleveland. So you can see the interior photos, the conditions. They're essentially all on the same block. You have the next property at 7102 Grand.
We're going to have to take separate motions, so either we can do them or we can go back, but we'll need to do them all as separate votes.
Okay, well, we can just run through the vote.
There.
Go ahead, August.
I need to recuse myself.
Oh, yeah. Well, we still have a quorum. I think we're okay as long as you recuse yourself. We started with a quorum, so we should be fine.
You want me to keep going through all the grand ones together?
August, will you have to recuse yourself from all of them?
If they're associated with the headquarters, yes.
Okay. I actually need some counsel here. We will lose our quorum without August. Can we still vote?
David is on his way back on. I
He
did
is.
indicate to him, yes. So he's on his way back on.
Okay, that would be good. Are there any others besides these, or are they the last few?
These are the last from me.
Okay. So let's hold on. Hopefully David can come on 1 second so we can get these approved. So go back to the first one here at the police station, Maurice, because we'll take them one at a time.
Okay.
And even though, and I understand, and that's thoughtful to recuse, but these still are just properties that are in disrepair, that have been vacant, abandoned, and nuisance that are owned by the city. Just mentioning that the future development of this land is the police headquarters, not that this is necessarily, technically a part of, they are tangential to the project, right? Is there any other information you'd like to know about those, or we're just going to wait for Mr. Bowen?
I think we have to wait. I think
He's coming on now.
He's coming. I think August needs to recuse himself because he's working on the police station project, so he can't vote. Let's hold on for David.
There he is. He's logging in now.
Okay. All right. Good.
There he
Okay.
is.
So David, we're voting on a few demolitions of housing that are by the police station. And these are our last items that are on the police station site on the Opportunity Corridor. So the first one's 2977 East 79th Street. Can I have a motion on this?
I'll move for the demolition of 7024.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Let's take the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
And note an abstention from August. And the second one also in this.
That was the second one. What's the first one was?
That was the one we just did. We just did this one.
You did that one? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't want you to miss one.
Yep. The second one is 7024 Grand, which is also part of the vicinity of the police station. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Let's call the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Sly.
Yes.
And an recusal from August. And I think this is the last one, is 7102 Grand Avenue. Can I have a motion to demolish?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Can we have the roll?
Bowen,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Sly.
Yes.
Motion carries. I was wrong. There's one more, 7202 Grand Avenue.
Move to approve demolition.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Okay, hang on one second. I already have this as approved. 7102, you were saying? That's already been approved. 7202 has been approved.
Okay.
We are now looking at 7315 Grand Avenue, and then there's one after that as well, which is
Okay.
the parcel with no address.
Okay, are these by the police station or can August come back?
These are all part of that same project.
Okay, okay,
So then my motion is for 7315.
okay. We have a motion for 7315. Do we have a second?
Second, Paul.
A motion and a second. Let's take the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Sly.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So we have one more that you say is unnumbered. Is this
Parcel
it?
number 124-24-056.
Okay. And this is a different building. We didn't look at this. This looks like a little bit of an industrial building.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
it's like a commercial, yes.
Okay.
And we'll be raising that structure and clearing all of the hard surface.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Move approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
A second. Motion and a second. Can we take the roll?
Bowen,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Sly.
Yes.
Motion carries. I think that's it. So I think the meeting is adjourned. Thanks for coming back, David.
Oh, sure. Do we have a director's report?
Yes, real quick. There are two special meetings that we're going to need to identify dates for. One is for the Vision for the Valley Plan adoption. We did go over to Alley Cat to check out the facilities there. Our technical staff, Maurice Rulins, myself, and a few others, we think that the location could work out very well for what we're doing. We just need confirmation on the number of attendees to make sure that we're meeting COVID protocols, and we will be ready to proceed from there. We did reach out to each planning commission member to ascertain their comfort level with doing a on-site meeting. Last night, there was a hybrid community meeting that was held where Maurice kind of utilized that meeting for kind of a test case. So we're just working out those final technical items for that. And we'll be ready to go forward with that meeting for Vision for the Valley at Alley Cat. And David will need to work out the actual special meeting date. We're not going to hold it on a normal planning commission meeting Friday. So we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable. The next item is a joint committee meeting that the administration wants us to have with the Landmarks Commission that has to do with the proposed development that's going to be introduced in the warehouse district and just outside of Public Square. I believe you all can pretty much know what I'm talking about. Though just this is some images of the facility at the Alley Cat where we would be hosting the commission hearing for the Vision for the Valley. You have a pretty good view of the riverfront. The space capacity for this under normal circumstances is 60. I believe the state requirements only allow for us to have, I believe, 10 to 20 people in this size room. So we're going to work this all out, but we'll make sure that all the commission members are in a safe scenario. There's a board, not a board, but a television monitor that we'll be able to view the presentations from. So this is just an image of the facility. And going back to the other project, we have done joint committee meetings for Public Square and other large scale projects. So this will be the first time everyone is kind of seeing the concept for this development. And they would like to have that in a joint meeting fashion, given the timeline that's going to be required in order to move the project forward. So Landmarks and Planning Commission, we're going to be reaching out to Chairman Bowen as well as Mrs. Trott. I believe that correspondence is going out already to work out a date certain for that meeting to occur. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up to all commission members is because this falls outside of our normal meeting purview. So it's necessary for you guys to be aware and also be able to prepare well in advance for the identification of those dates so that they can fit into your schedule. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. And that's it.
Thanks, Freddie.
Director Collier,
Yes.
might I say something?
Yes, sir.
And I could share this with you further. But as we continue to plan, look at zoning, rewriting zoning, please know that areas, African-American areas that are redlined, and we have to look at those areas differently. In other words, one size fits all is not going to work. And I will share with you real quickly what's happened to me personally, where I live at Beacon Place. I had my house appraised because we're refinancing. The appraiser didn't get out of his car. He valued our house lower than a house that's smaller than our house, doesn't have a basement or a rear little two-car garage, right? So and what happens in those cases is people become, that area, my neighborhood is becoming more transient because people are upside down and they're either moving out and renting out to people who aren't there in the neighborhood or have a stake in the neighborhood. And so when we start designing and planning all these areas, we have to figure out how to overcome that. And it's a lot of policies, there's a lot of implicit and explicit bias that goes with that. And I just wanted to share that, guys. Thank you.
And I want to just say I definitely appreciate that. And I do want to share this. We have been doing a lot of the form-based zoning activities in Huff, and we've been very much engaged with the local community. So much so, we're working with 12 literary arts. We're working with a lot of students. The impetus for this analysis in Huff, because we're approaching the engagement in each one of our pilot areas differently, is really focusing on this issue of redlining inequities in the historic context that these policies have created that we're paying for today. So we're moving forward with that understanding. Now, I want to emphasize this because this actually came up. There were two things in the community discussions that were brought up. When we were showing images of the product types, because a lot of what we're trying to do is really try to infuse that diversity of housing product in the city of Cleveland. When we show some of the images and we asked those residents what they thought about those images, when they saw the mixed use, the higher end sort of architecture, they thought gentrification. These were the words that were used. They thought, not for me, cost too much. And just the architecture alone sent certain signals that they would be priced out. Now, one of the things that we did show, because this is very important, and your firm has been very much engaged in this in over many years, showing them that because you see high quality product, materials does not mean that it is not for you. So we started to show examples of affordable housing and other types of housing products that were designed in such a way where you could barely even tell the difference. And there are a number of examples that are going on around the city where you have good design on affordable housing product. We're doing that right now with our HUD application with Woodland Hills Estates, with City Architecture as the partner. And if you look at the type of product that we're putting out there for these affordable units, you can hardly tell the difference in some of the, more higher end, real estate, ventures that are going on. So there's an overcoming by our community as to we need to be able to associate ourselves with being able to have the best of things. The other point I do want to make that's happening, that's not zoning, but policy, because zoning is one of the tools that the establishment have been used to advantage some communities and disadvantage others. There's a policy piece that has to be brought to the forefront. And one of the things that we're seeing in Huff, this has gone on with my mother in St. Luke's Manor, who lives in the old St. Luke's Hospital. You see landlords raising rents just because the area is starting to transform. No real justification. They're just going up on existing rents. So there are a number of policy, zoning, and other types of things that we have to look at through an equity lens and be very intentional about it. So I say all that to say, we understand that very clearly. This is a personal value proposition of mine, and there's no way we would approach anything without looking through that lens as a department. And hopefully know that over the last 16 years as an administration, that is not a value proposition of ours to not consider those things.
Hey,
and then lastly,
yes, can I just say on that note,
yes.
as August runs into the trouble with appraisals and banks and stuff, which a lot of us do, the county raises our taxes like nobody's business. I pay more in taxes than I ever did in my mortgage. And that'll price people right out of a neighborhood too.
Right.
I don't disagree, David, but when I can tell you, I can walk 2 blocks from my house and a house just sold for $150,000 more than my house in the same architecture vernacular, that's laziness. That's bias. All right. And I'm not trying to, and believe me, I don't need the equity in my house to do what I need to do, but that appalls me. All right. It just does. I've been in my house for 21 years. I choose to be in this city. I could be anywhere I want to be, but I choose to be here. And to see that happening is disgraceful. So I just wanted to be clear about that, sir.
And just to close this out, because I think this is an important conversation, and I wanted to have this dialogue with you guys. Just with respect to policy, we are the meat in between the sandwich of this issue. And with your example of your appraiser, people bring their personal bias and racist tendencies to decision making throughout numerous organizations, throughout numerous sectors. And part of what we have to try to do is make sure that our policies and the rules that we put in place don't perpetuate that. And this leads me to this whole conversation that has been in the media that we have not, been very happy with about what our townhouse code represents and what it doesn't. The one thing that I want to say to the Planning Commission and how I view us, and if I'm not around, whatever the case may be, I would hope that the Planning Commission, this staff, and we see ourselves as a unified family, in a unified family that's trying to do the best that we possibly can to make Cleveland better and more equitable. And I just think it's important that as a family, when we have our differences of understanding of our different positions, that we communicate those, amongst each other. I will go on record as saying we do not agree with anyone that we're anything like Denver, Colorado. Many of the examples that were used in that article was non-Cleveland examples. The one example that was used that we've discussed and I've had some dialogue around was the Glenville project. But I think that the article and the way it was written and some of the things were stated was like totally unfair to us. And I think that our townhouse code has really yielded some really good development. Now, does things need to be tweaked? Absolutely. We came before the Planning Commission to share what we thought those tweaks were, where I think there was really positive response to that. So, I just want to say everyone has an opinion. We are not shame as a planning commission. We've always been open to public scrutiny and input. That's our business. But I just want to say, we have to make sure that we are understanding each other, reinforcing each other, and also correcting each other. And how we correct each other, I think, is very important. So I just want to go on record to say I respect every one of you. I respect your professionalism, your point of view, and this is not me blowing smoke. But, our staff, we're competent. We believe in what we're doing. And, we're here to make sure that we do the best we can for the city. So that I just thought that article was not a fair summation of what our intent with respect to trying to get a diversity of housing, in this city. When I got out of college and my friends got out of college, we had to move to Euclid, Richmond Heights just to get a decent apartment with some amenities. We didn't offer the product. Huff had the first example of a real rental product that was nice, and the Lexington Village project. If we're talking about during my time, coming out of school. And that's tragic in a city that is supposed to be urban, it's supposed to be a dynamic. We cannot have monolithic neighborhoods. I would never be an advocate of saying that we should have a one size fits all or single family on every block or just things that make certain groups of people comfortable. If you live in a city, you need to expect to live in a dynamic environment. If not, then you should live in a suburb. And that's just our posture. Now, again, I may not be here, but I'm just letting you know where we stand, and we've been very intentional and clear. And everything that we've suggested and recommended, folks, is based on a comprehensive plan, is based on a strategic plan in our department, and we've been very intentional and transparent about walkability, about density, and all of those things. The only organization and individual that can help temper us is the mayor, this commission, and the community. And we've listened to every one of you throughout this entire process, at least throughout my tenure. And I just hope during the time that I've served you as planning director since 2014, that you recognize that this department, as well as myself, have put our best foot forward to really transform this city and look hard at making sure that we're in the process of being competitive. So I just wanted to get that off my chest because it's a lot to absorb when you read material. I gave a very robust, detailed response to Mr. Litt that didn't make it in the article I shared with Chairman Bowen and would love to share it with you. And I just want to be just sincere and just want you guys to know I'm having this conversation because, I consider you all, friends and colleagues, and I have a great deal of respect for you. And, I should be able to be honest with you guys. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Like your candor. Hey, Freddie, why don't you, over the strategic plan, why don't you go over the pillars again, just so everyone can hear them again?
Yeah, I'll do that. Matter of fact, I'll send it out, and I'll actually, we might need to have a, presentation, to the Planning Commission. But, we've always been focused on health, equity, and sustainability.
And I agree with you, Freddie.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate Freddie, but you know as well as I do, you can't control everyone's lens, right? Even those who work for you.
Yeah.
Because we all have our biases. Yeah. I have them. I'm not perfect. No one on this telephone conversation is perfect. And then until we start beginning to realize that greater outcomes come with diversity. Mm-hmm. And so if there's, and I'll just give an example, if there's just all African Americans planning, or if this is all, white folks planning, that's not going to work. Whether it's age, whether it's your sexual orientation, whether it's gender, right? We have to approach what we're doing together, and I don't think enough of that happens, and that's just my opinion. Thank you.
That's fair.
Well, guys, I need something to eat.
Okay, well, good director's report, good communication.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
another
Thanks,
start
David.
for another week.
Everyone.
Everyone have a good weekend.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.